Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Boxing Coalition. My name is Cam. Joining me tonight, Naota. How's it going, Nikki?
Pretty good, man. Just a lot to talk about. A lot of things going on in the world of boxing, and it's great.
Yeah, and
excellent.
I kind of got all my tabs ready for next week, and next week's probably busier than this week, and this week was busy as fuck. So I think this has a 3-hour show written all over it.
Yeah, man, boxing season is here in full force.
It is indeed. All right, I'll give you the floor. Where should we start? I guess New York would be the most likely start point.
Yeah, I'd say that's the big headlines, for the weekend.
All right, what fight you want to start with?
Well, I mean, I guess we want to.
Should we get out of the way? Should we get out of the way? The egg on my face.
Yeah, yeah, might as well.
Oh, my boy Lubin. I said a lot of crazy stuff. I still stand by it, but it's crazy, man. Like, we were just talking off air, Neil, so there's a lot of things to talk about within that short one round. We didn't really learn a lot, apart from, has Lubin just got no chin? Was it just a punch that landed perfectly that he didn't see? Let's go through it then. So, Charlo threw like a double jab. Right, I personally think it was a right uppercut to the body. Lubin kind of ducked, crouched down, got caught on the chin, fell very awkwardly, his leg bent, landed on his side. He looked like a deer that just was given birth to. Like, he should have been covered in slime, just like twitching there. And I don't know, Naota. I just personally think if he would have landed on his back, maybe his senses would have been a bit clearer. But the fact that he was at that weird angle and he was just caught with a good shot, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to make excuses for my boy, but yeah, man, like, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, man. I don't necessarily think that it was to the body. I think that Charlo kind of actually timed his kind of ducking into it, because I had seen him kind of almost like feint a right hand earlier in the round, and Lubin duck in the same way, and he just timed it perfectly, and he basically leaned into the shot, got dropped. I mean, the thing is, the Charlos have big punches, so I mean, it's entirely possible Lubin may be chinny, or it could be a combination of both. Both the Charlos are big punchers, or it could be, maybe he's not necessarily granite chin, but not necessarily chinny, but he just fell right into a great shot from a big puncher, a bona fide puncher, and just got put down. But yeah, I mean, it might have been just the initial impact, and then the impact of him kind of hitting the canvas as raw as he did, because there wasn't any, like with some knockdowns. I know, like, a guy will get hit, they're hurt by that initial shot, but they have enough kind of wherewithal to brace themselves before they hit the canvas. With Lubin, there was none of that. It's like he just went down pretty limp, and then, like, at that point, it was almost like he woke up from cracking into the canvas and was, like, I had made the analogy over the weekend, like he looked like Indiana Jones reaching for his hat under the rock. He's like reaching for the ropes, but the ropes are too far away, and yeah, it was just too far. And unfortunately for Lubin, it was like I had kind of hinted at last week that it might be that it was just too much too soon for him. And early on in the early part of the round, it looked like Lubin was trying to kind of boss up on Charlo a little bit. He kind of muscled him back. Sloughed them off as they were in a clinch against each other. And, he was looking to, I think, try to put some intimidation factor in the Charlo. But I think that ultimately kind of worked against Lubin. Lubin, I think, might have been feeling himself a little bit too much in terms of, like, that kind of bully style. And he just underestimated how quickly Charlo could escalate the situation, and how quickly he could end it, basically. Beautiful shot, great combo. And the Charlos, I think really, I can't think of the name of their new trainer now, off the top of my head. But since they've gone with that guy, they're a lot more aggressive. They're using, I think, the tools that they naturally have a lot better.
Isn't one of them? Didn't one leave? Didn't Jamal leave? But Jamal stayed with Ronnie Shields.
Previously, I think Jamal's with them now too.
Oh, they both moved.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. Derek James is the trainer. Thanks, over brother in the chat. what do you call it? But yeah, they're punching. They're coming out a lot more aggressive. They're not wasting any time. They're not going backwards and taking so much off of their shots that guys can kind of get into a fight, get into a rhythm, and be capable of getting into a situation where they're somewhat outboxing the Charlos, and the Charlos have to kind of come back at them. And I guess they're correcting me now. Like I guess only one of them did in fact move. But regardless, I mean, but they're both a lot more aggressive now than they used to be. They're not looking like bastard sons of Erislandy Lara anymore. And I think that suits them a lot more so. They both have power, and they should both be utilizing it, and that's exactly what they're both doing. And they both have that bad attitude that I like to see, those bad intentions about him. You see Jamal jump in the ring asking, is he okay? Is he, he's shouting out like they're getting hyped up, and they just have that energy.
That's why they get chairs thrown at them, though.
Yeah, man. I guess it might have been one of Lubin's his trainer or his second assistant that actually threw the chair at Jamal. But yeah, man, they're getting hyped. They're ready to knock people out, knock anybody out that's getting in their way, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the fact that they finally kind of come of age. They're coming into their own, and they're not just basically Erislandy Lara's lackeys anymore. They're their own men now.
Oh, and, shit, man. So your team Lions only?
Say what?
Your team Lions only?
Hashtag Lions only.
Oh, shit.
Lions only.
Because I'm complete opposite. They keep taking out my guys, man. So I'm like a Jamal. I'm a Charlo hater.
Oh man, yeah, you gotta go one way or the other. They're definitely becoming a lot more polarizing as the days pass. For sure.
Exactly. You can't sit in the middle with them guys. But you made a great point before. The way Lubin fell, he went very limp, and that concerns me. Most guys that have no chin, that's what happens. They just get caught, and the energy just goes out the body. The legs just turn to jelly, and they get dropped. So, moving onwards, that is one concern of mine. But a few things regarding Lubin. I think the next year to 18 months are going to be critical. The way he's match made, the way he's kind of looked after by his team, his friends and family. I hear it a lot when, guys take their first loss. They always say people stop calling, like the hype train kind of ends a bit.
Screeches to a halt.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like they're the times where they need to be strongest. So I hope he's got good people around him that can keep him, from not kind of going down a black hole. A lot of guys might stop training, start eating, but hopefully he doesn't have that mentality. But matchmaking is going to be important going on as well. He just needs a few, decent guys where he can get his confidence back, because you see it so many times, to guys, a first round knockout can haunt you, man. Because
right.
It's always a black dot on your resume moving forward. Even if you really go on and do good things, people will say, well, because I was talking to KH and he was talking about Badu Jack, and it's true, man. After that random fucking first round knockout from a journeyman, he's gone on and done really good things. But in my mind, I was busting, Victor Salazar's balls in Vegas. That it's in the back of my mind. He's always chinning, man. It's only going to take one shot, and that's my concern with Lubin now. Like, is he just a guy that can get hit and he just reacts like jelly, or can was it just a random shot? We don't know. But
not only that, but it can play on a fighter's psychology too. They might not be as willing to open up or as willing to take some of those opportunities that present themselves.
Exactly.
So they might be a little bit slower to pull the trigger, and that ultimately might cost them.
No, it's true that like a fighter towards the end of his career, they can't pull the trigger anymore.
Yeah. Well, not even just that, but yeah. Oh, yeah. My bad. I misheard what you said, and it kind of reverberated back in my brain, and I caught it. Yeah, I agree definitely. It in a way, it kind of reminds me of what happened with Amir Imam when he took the loss to Adrian Granados, and we haven't heard too much from Imam necessarily since. He's been a bit more low key. But I think some of that also has to do with the fact that he's promoted by Don King, who has a pretty bad reputation in terms of keeping his fighters active to begin with.
Yeah.
With Lubin, I don't necessarily think that he'll be quite that far out of the spotlight, but I definitely think that it's going to be very, very crucial to see how they progress him in the near future and see exactly who they match him up against. He's still young. He's still relatively green, fresh. So I think they can kind of take their time with him, to take him back to kind of fighting maybe kind of fringe contender level guys, get him a couple of confidence building fights, and then maybe in a couple of years try to take another shot at it, possibly when the 154 division has cleared up and cleared out maybe a little bit, when the Jermell, who's probably going to be moving up reasonably soon, we'll get to Jarrett Hurd, who's another big guy who you could very easily see as a middleweight, if not a super middleweight. So I think the room might be there for Lubin in the future.
No, that's a great point, and maybe they could rematch at middleweight or higher if he goes on to be successful. And like, he's 22, man. There's a lot of years where he can just regroup and come back. But one last point regarding Lubin is he got knocked out in the first round, yeah, but he got knocked out to a world champion. I'm not the biggest Jamel or Jamal fan, but they both are very good. I rate Jamal more than I do Jamel, but Jamel is still a high quality boxer, and there's no shame in losing to a guy like that. Like if Lubin would have got knocked out by a journeyman, then yeah, questions can be raised. But he's a world champion. He was fighting in his first title fight. He's 22. There's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, the thing though is like you could say that there's no shame in it, but for fighters, any loss is a shame. Any loss is a shame, and especially if it comes that abruptly. Because I mean, at least like say if you're taking into account somebody like John Jackson. John Jackson was boxing the shit out of Jamel before he got knocked out. He won basically every round up until that point. So at least for his sake, he could say like, I just got caught. I was whooping his ass and I just got caught. You could somewhat say that for Lubin as well. He just caught me early, caught me cold. But I think that's a little bit more damaging to one's psyche, especially being that young of a guy. It's like you still have that kind of adolescent adrenaline rush and that kind of dog-ish mentality about yourself. That's a little bit different when you get older in comparison.
And also, you have to change your marketing as well, because from some of the B-roll that I saw, he's talking hellish shit, and now you kind of have to humble yourself and come back a bit quieter, because you can't be talking all that shit, because people are just going to throw that one-round knockout back in your face. Right, which is unfortunate if that's who you are, because there's some people that's who they are. That's who they are from the root to the fruit. It's ingrained. That's how they kind of get themselves up for fights. Yeah, and if that is Lubin, then taking this kind of a loss can really harm him a lot more so than otherwise. I personally think that's just kind of facade to like build up the fight, because when I do follow him on like social media, and he just seemed like more of a quieter internal guy, so I don't really think that'll be an issue, but we'll see going ahead. But let's move on now to what second fight. Well, there's only one fight because I don't want to talk about Lara, so let's talk about Hurd versus Trout. Really fun fight. You see, you reminded me of Sergey Kovalev. No, I don't want to talk about Lara. He's a piece of shit. Piece of shit. But yeah, Jarrett Hurd versus Austin Trout. Great fight, man. Really, really a good fight. Turned out to be probably the one of the fights of the night, really, if not the fight of the night. Trout was looking really good early. Kind of sharp shooting, landing in combination, punching in combination, a little bit more like sitting down on the shots as opposed to being like so high up on his toes that there wasn't anything to his shots. But Jarrett Hurd, I kind of compared him recently to like a big version of Omar Figueroa, and he does do some similar things, but in that sense as well, he's a guy that he's just physically strong. He's like a brick wall. So even though Trout was tagging him, he just kept coming right at him. And even when he wasn't necessarily landing cleanly on Trout, he was hitting him with those shots that still do damage, that move you around too. And it was even given the impression, I think, on the judges and on the commentators, that he was slightly wearing down Trout round after round after round. After about the fifth round, it looked like Trout had done about 10 or 11 hard rounds. That's the look of his body language. Even though he was winning the fight at that point, by my likings, he looked, just swept up. He looked winded. He looked like he had just ran a marathon, and was ready to chill for a day or two.
But Hurd just kept on coming, just like an oncoming freight train, and slowly just kind of ran over him, eventually stopping him. And it's kind of unfortunate. I think Trout, he just ran out of gas. Had he been able to finish those last couple of rounds, he might have been able to just eke it out. But Hurd, he has a great will to win. Very strong. He's a guy that's going to wear you down. But that being said, in terms of his future prospects, I don't necessarily quite like him for the other champions that are out there, considering the fact that they do hit much harder than Trout, and Hurd is extremely open to being hit by fighters with that level of accuracy.
Yeah, it was a really fun fight. That sixth round was amazing, where they were both in the pocket trading, just going back and forth. But Hurd, I don't know. I think he's accident waiting to happen, man. If Trout had any more power on him, I think he would have probably maybe stopped him. But as you said earlier on, he was kind of planting his feet. Trout was and throwing, and he wasn't really hurting Hurd at all. And
yeah, Trout's never been a big power puncher, so.
Yeah, but you're right though. I think a combination of inactivity and also Trout doesn't throw as much activity in other fights than he did in this. Like, take punch stats with a grain of salt, but like there were stats from like some of the early rounds where he was like in the high 80s, 90s with punch output, multiple rounds. So Trout doesn't really do that, and come like the 8th, 9th, like he had visibly slowed. Like his feet were slower, poorly pointed out where. Normally he would exit stage right with a kind of spin off, and he wasn't doing that anymore just because he didn't really have the energy. And but Hurd, man, like it's too easy to hit. Again, poorly pointing out that he just walks forward. He doesn't walk forward like boxing footwork. He just kind of
he doesn't have a subtlety about his pressure.
Yeah. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but as soon as he throws the combinations, his hands are by his side, man. He doesn't bring you up to the high guard. And it's like, well, that's why you're getting hit, bro. You can't just rely on that chin, because you're going to come up against someone that's got decent power, and he's going to start hurting you, man.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that, too, it has to do with in the past, aside from maybe Harrison, most of the opponents in the past haven't been very big punchers to begin with. And they were tended to be like smaller guys. So, I mean, the last couple of fights has been a reasonably large step up for him as well. Most of his opponents up until then were much lower of a level than somebody like Trout in terms of power, in terms of accuracy, in terms of everything, basically. And, he was able to just kind of walk through whatever they took, and he could do whatever the hell he wanted, basically. Here, he wasn't able to quite get away with that as much. And even he himself, I thought, was starting to get tired a bit as it got to the mid-rounds, because at that point, that's where he pretty much had his hands down out of the sides at all times. No, not just after throwing the combinations, but all the time. That was just his stance at that point. And he definitely ate a lot more shots there, but it's just that Trout was so tired by that point that he didn't even have as much steam as he had earlier on. So it really didn't matter. He wasn't able to really make him pay for that. But yeah, like I said before, him against like say Jermell or Lara, if he's taking those same kind of shots against them, he's getting hurt real bad.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But props to Hurd though, like he showed resilience, and he took all those shots early on, especially Trout. Like between like maybe the first 6 rounds, Trout was excellent, man. I think only give Hurd 1 round because Trout's combinations, he was landing like the double straight left, the right hook as well. Because like, Trout's not really been known for the right hook, and he was doing pretty decent with it. But I'd love to see Trout back again. And if you look at the level like J-Rock, Trout, there's some guys in the UK. Like let's see what happens with Liam Smith and Liam Williams. But I think Liam Williams against some of these guys would be really fun. And there's a lot of mixing and matching that can happen and result in some really good fights, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like tossing like J-Rock maybe against Lubin in a year and a half or something like that.
Yep.
That'd be a great fight.
Exactly. I lied about Lara. I do want to mention a few things if you're ready and finished with the Hurd versus Trout fight, Neota.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done with it. And, props to Hurd, but I definitely think that he has some things to seriously improve upon before he takes on his fellow title holders. But hey, he said that he's ready and willing to fight him ASAP. So I got to give him a little bit of credit for that, at least, that he was able to actually mention him by name rather than saying like, I need to talk to my side piece and my wife and my son and my nephew, and we're gonna come to an agreement in about 12 months as to who I'm gonna fight next. Like some fighters do.
Yeah, that was quite good. He even said it. He said, "Well, I just fought a southpaw. Maybe I'd fight Lara." So at least he's actually specifying the exact
going after the real man of the division, really.
Yeah, but Lara fucks him up. Man.
Yeah, most likely.
But let's talk about Mr. Lara. I find it hilarious that the Three Stooges always seem, when Lara's fighting or when any of these, the slower types where they don't throw enough and they can do more but they choose not to, the crowd boos and Ronaldo's like, Paulie, Al, why don't people appreciate the sweet science? And they have to make some bullshit up about, well, they don't really understand or da-da-da-da. No, the guy's super talented. He's usually highly above the level of competition that's in front of him, but he chooses not to do enough or not to do more.
Yeah. He puts himself into cruise control rather than stomping out a guy that's overmatched against him.
Yep.
Which is what people want to see. They want to see if there's somebody that's just outclassed, they want to see you not just give them a D and go to decision. They want to see you flunk his ass. They want to see you put him down. They want to see you get rid of him. They want to see you stop him. They want to see you do serious fucking damage to him and show that, no, you're not on my fucking level. Get the fuck out of here. That's what they want to see. And for them to act basically call the fans stupid is what they were doing. They call the fans there in Brooklyn stupid. And so, if you're some of these fans that went to go and see this fight and, these guys are calling you a fucking moron, just like you go at some other commentators from some other networks, you should be, talking some shit about some of these commentators too, maybe. Instead of being a bitch and letting them call you a fucking moron, which is exactly what they were doing.
It was crazy, man. It was crazy, but there was a B-roll before they made their ring walks. I don't know if you saw that, but basically they were just having an interview with Lara, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, the amount of defenses, and I'm the best in the division. I fight all the top guys." And you look at his resume since Canelo, Ishe Smith, Delvin Rodriguez, Zanzavik, Vanes Matarosian, the rematch. The first one ended in that head clash. Yuri Foreman. And now Terrell Gaucher. What the fuck, man? For a world champion, and they were kind of crowning the fact that he's almost gonna set the record for most defenses in that weight division. And it's like the guy's fought no one for the last 2-3 years, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of that is it wasn't entirely his fault. You know what I mean? He was, at least for his worth, I think, trying to get fights with somebody like Canelo, with Cotto, etc. But they weren't really coming to the table for a variety of reasons. Some of them valid, some of them not. The bullshit with him and Golovkin was always bullshit. He was always fucking around and basically doing the hold me back, and somebody was already fucking holding him back. Because of the fact that there was no way in hell that he was going to get a shot at Golovkin. And for all the fucking morons that said he was going to hit a school Golovkin because Jacobs did something. He doesn't fucking hit like Jacobs. So get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Fucking lay down in traffic with that shit. All right. But yeah, some of it wasn't necessarily his fault. Some of it was, but just like I kind of alluded to earlier, the Charlos were pretty much his sons, and only now are the students trying to call out the master. So I can't necessarily blame him entirely for that, but I can blame him a bit more for not stepping on the roaches that he's been fighting, basically not stomping out Ishe Smith and Delvin Rodriguez, whereas Cotto blasted Rodriguez's ass out, for instance. He did it against Foreman, and fair play to him. Terrell Gaucher, I think, for at least for his worth, proved to be a little bit tougher, a little bit more difficult than Lara, and then even, pretty much everybody anticipated. I had seen promise from Gaucher coming out of the Olympics back in 2012, but he hadn't really shown anything up until this point. And he did show a couple of things here and there that was giving Lara some issues, and I guess making Lara a little bit more hesitant to pull that trigger in the end. But ultimately, that's what truly separates very good, good from very good fighters, and very good fighters from great fighters, and great fighters from all-time great fighters, is stepping on the gas when you have a guy there. Because, I mean, really, for all you want to say about minimizing risk in the midst of a roar, and minimizing risk in the midst of beating your opponent, you don't minimize the risk any more than knocking them out and making it so that they don't exist to begin with in that ring, able to be throwing punches at you.
I just was disappointed with Gachet's output. Like, you can't throw so few punches against Lara. He was countering him with that left hand all now, and Gachet just kept doing the same thing, was feinting, trying to get close. But the few times, there was one round when he came out the gate and he was throwing a lot more, he was putting pressure on Lara, and he had a bit of success. I think he used to threw a double left hook and they both landed, and you think, well, that just worked for you, why not repeat that? But then he goes back to the feinting, not doing much, and it's just not enough with Lara. You just got to put pressure and output on him, man. Yeah, I know it's easier said than done, especially when you get hit consistently with those backhands, and you just get put off like doing that same shit because you don't want to take that punch. But like, you're in there to win it, so at least put some effort in.
Yeah, funny enough, Jarrett Hurd actually might have a style that would give Lara quite a bit of difficulty. The only problem is he gets hit so fucking easy that Lara would probably light his ass up.
Yeah.
So, if he could integrate a bit more of the finer points of defense while providing your offense and while cutting down the ring, I think he could actually give Lara quite a bit of difficulty, because he is that type of fighter where he's one of those guys that he's such a finesse fighter that he'll kind of pull out and kind of admire his work. Where if you continue to take that extra step and throw that extra punch at him, he's gonna have that look about him like, what? No, you're not supposed to be doing that. I'm supposed to just be ahead of you at all times and be completely out of the range of you throwing at me.
Yeah.
Those holes are still there to be exposed, and it really just takes the right opponent to be able to expose them.
To your point, though, there was that round with the Hurd Trout fight where Hurd came out and he was a bit more awkward. He kind of had his hands low, and he started to time Trout a bit more, and he was just kind of shotting him with counters. And if he can maybe do that against Lara, then yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Hey, Cam. Hey, Nauta.
Hello, Daniel.
Yeah, what's going on? I was just in Japan lately, so I really thought my boy Geisha was gonna win. I just thought it was destiny.
Obviously not.
But I just think you guys are doing a great job, with the show, and just wanted to call in and say, I miss you guys, and that's it.
Give us an update, man. I know you were in the Tekken gym while you were in Japan, man.
Yeah, how's
I'll discuss it just a little bit later. I just want to say one thing about the Charlo fight. Lions only.
All right, that was terrible.
It was a great fight.
Daniel, the lion limb.
Whole fight. I watched the whole fight, so got to give me props for that. You can't call me a casual fan anymore. I mean, I was willing to watch that entire first round, so you got to give me some props for it, right?
Hey, shit, man, that's a lot of time and effort involved.
It's about 97 seconds.
Lions only limb. That's what I'm calling you from now on.
Yeah, but do you guys notice that haircut that the Charlos and the Hurd fighters rock? I think that's a secret ingredient to success.
You think you're gonna go for that?
I think I'm a little bit too yellow-skinned, to tell you the truth. So there's not like
might clash a
cool contrast,
Well, hey, you downloaded the Brown Sugar app, Daniel. So I mean, I think
I deleted it actually. It took up too much memory space, unfortunately. I had to remove it to download Skype. Actually, funny enough, but no, man. I think Jermell is a beast. I don't know if you guys remember, and I know you guys won't remember, but I think one of the first shows we did, we were discussing Gabriel Rosado versus Jermell Charlo, and at that time, Jermell was like an unknown quantity. And Jermell was the guy who everyone was hyping. And to tell you the truth, I talked to Takema about this a little bit yesterday. Like, I honestly don't think the discrepancy is all that much. I think Jermell, he may not have that obviously that primetime aspect to him, just because he's not as outwardly as aggressive as Jamal is, but I still think he's a damn good fighter. And yeah, I mean, when I was watching that fight, it just looked like Lubin was a welterweight fighting a 160 fighter, and I kind of felt bad. I could kind of feel the tension and the unease from Lubin. That first, feeling out moments of that round, I had a really like queasy feeling, and I felt that Lubin was going to get taken away fairly early just by his body posture and whatnot. But I think more importantly than anything, the reason why I wanted to call was just to shit on Cam and tell him that he took the biggest L, I think, of all of us in the history of this program. He called, I think, Lubin a better version of Errol Spence. So, I mean, how are you going to respond to that claim, Cam?
I did do that. I did say that. But the thing is, when I say statements like that, I turn up the next week. When you take a big L, you're AWOL. You don't turn up on the show. So at least give me props for that.
Though that's a separate thing, though. It doesn't take away from the fact that you said something that ridiculous. So what's your response to that?
My response is, even though on the show you said that you were picking Mayweather over McGregor, secretly you picked McGregor over Mayweather. Wow. So I think that's a bigger L.
Yeah. So dig up private conversations to try to somehow justify your claim. That's a very good thing to do on your end.
I think everyone that listens to this show long enough knows that you were secretly picking McGregor, but to save face on this show, you picked Mayweather. So come on, bro.
Well, that's one of those things where this is a complete tangent, but I love Conor to the death. It just doesn't have the same the same level of logical, idiocy as your statement did. But nonetheless, I respect.
Why Cam watches Lubin's YouTube channel religiously? So I mean, I put it up that on the same level.
I overheard that Cam followed his Twitter page and made some kind of psychoanalysis in terms of how much respect he has in terms of his opponents and whatnot. But I'm only fucking around, honestly. I don't think anybody predicted this, and nobody could have predicted this. So for you to think, Lubin's a highly touted prospect, which his own managers did. So honestly, how much can you blame our sweet old Cam when his old promoters and managers probably thought the same thing? But it really is one of those situations where, like, boxing is a really fucking crazy sport, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lubin never comes back. And it's such a crazy sport because this fight may damage what he could have been, and we'll never know that because we'll never know how great he could be if kind of things go awry, and we'll always kind of question if he doesn't pan out the way a lot of us thought he did. Was it because of this fight, or was he just always not that great to begin with? And that's why boxing is such a crazy sport. And I'm not trying to justify gimme fights. Kind of like Kovalev versus Shabransky, which actually isn't that bad of a fight, but sometimes we shit a lot on fights that people take, and we feel like, oh, that's not on his level. He needs to fight somebody a lot better. But this is one of those situations where we do get kind of reminded. Sometimes those things may be necessary. We really don't know either way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you take this big of a loss on that big of a stage, it can oftentimes damage you a lot more so than if you take it like early in your career, in your second or third fight, like controversial loss off TV. Sometimes at least if you get that out of the way, then you overcome that obstacle a lot sooner.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Lubin, I really don't know how to bounce back. I think it would take me about 2 to 3 months to step back into the gym and start working out again. I mean, how do you bounce back from that? I mean, really, because the first thing that I would say to myself is, this is the first time that I stepped up in competition and I got knocked the fuck out in the first round. Like, how do you justify that? There's certain times where, like, in anybody's life, if they go through some kind of obstacle like that, there's always excuses or justifications that they can make, which is actually a benefit in situations like this. But I can't even think of one that you could possibly think of in this situation.
I think you're just being a bit too harsh and just reading into the first round KO a bit too much, Dan. I think the fact that he's 22...
I am, because it's what happened, and it was 3 punches. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the worst case scenario.
No, it's not the worst case. The worst case scenario is he gets beat up for the entirety of the first round, then gets stopped.
No, I don't think so, because in that situation, let's say you were getting beat up, but at least you were competitive. You know that you can at least hang with this guy of this caliber.
But what if he wasn't competitive?
Like
what if he got beat up and then
I'm not even on the same range. I shouldn't have even been in there with him. I think this is a lot worse than that.
No, I think you are right. It all depends on how he handles it in the next couple of months. But I think he's still going to do great things. But that's not me saving face. That's me actually speaking from the heart.
Great things. If I'm putting a bet on it, I'd take like about 100-1 odds on him doing great things. I mean, I know I'm kind of asking an open-ended question here, but how many fighters who have taken this brutal of a loss at this early of a stage in their career on their first time stepping up in competition have bounced back from a situation like this? You know, like now to said, if it was earlier in your career, like your 5th, 6th, 7th fight, when you're just in your developmental stages, like that's fine. But this was the moment that he was building up his entire career for. So it's a really difficult situation, at least from my perspective.
All right. I know you just came back from your trip recently, so did you manage to catch the Trout Hurd fight?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I heard it was a good fight though, but honestly, I think I have a good enough handle on who Hurd is. Like, did Hurd do anything differently against Trout for you guys?
Nah.
Okay.
Just grinded him down basically.
Like now to said, I think he could probably give Lara a decent fight, kind of like Angulo did, in the sense that he's not a good ring cutter like Angulo is, but even though I think Angulo is a better ring cutter than Hurd is. So I don't know, man. Maybe Hurd gets completely whitewashed by Lara, but I think it'll be fun because at least he'll, apply that pressure consistently throughout. But I really don't have too much to say about Hurd. I just think Charlo and Lara is the fight that I want to see. Charlo Hurd wouldn't be bad either. I mean, I would actually really enjoy that fight as well, but I want to see Lara versus Hurd, and I want to know where the fuck Boo Boo Andrade is, because he
fighting on
still might be the best guy in that division.
He's fighting this weekend.
Who's he fighting?
Some undefeated dude, but I've never heard of him.
Well, there you go. I mean, talk about fighters who fucked up their careers. I mean, he might be at the top of that list in terms of guys who had momentum and just completely did nothing with it afterwards.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's fucked his career up.
Yeah.
Especially at that.
Because he's a guy who could give Charlo problems in the sense that he's just as big, he's just as rangy. However, we don't know what his chin is like, so that fight to me would be a 50-50 fight, just because I know how Andrade got dropped by Vanes in that first round, and Charlo's faster, hits harder, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he clips Andrade just because Boo Boo likes to stay in the pocket too much.
Has Andrade stepped up though? Because the fight against Alaten's Fox this weekend is at middleweight. So,
yeah. And Fox is a very tall middleweight. He's 6'4", and he knows how to use that reach.
Oh shit!
Was Andrade's past fight at 160 as well?
Against Kulkai, yeah.
He's fought at Kulkai was 154, but he's fought at 160 in the past though, a couple years back. It's been a while though.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, the Kulkai fight was 154, but I think he should just, if he can make 54, be at 54, because there's so many good fights to be made.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even if he's with HBO though, I mean, 160. I mean, I think the money's a little bit better for him there, considering the fact that he hasn't exactly been on great terms with Heyman's side of the fence.
You could always sign with the Matchroom USA.
True.
No, they would have one black guy at 160. They don't need two, Ken.
That is true. All right. Anything else you want to talk about that card in New York, Lim or Naoto?
That card was in New York?
Yeah, Brooklyn.
Ah, I see.
Would you have went if you weren't? Actually, yeah, you won't have been in New York anyway. But yeah.
Oh, you mean if it was local, would I have gone?
Yeah.
Nah, bro, come on, man. I would have gone to the Mares Santa Cruz doubleheader.
Oh shit, that's where we should go to next then. Naoto, start with you, man. It's a bit crazy, man. They had pretty early daylight. The place was half full or half empty, depending on how you see your outlook on life.
Well, I'm a positive person, man. Japan really changed me.
But Naota, I thought Mares looked good against a stationary robot who basically didn't do that much, but you can only do what against the opponent you have in front of him. And yeah, Mares' combinations were good, the accuracy was good, the movement was decent. He cut him with a punch, and the cut slowly got worse over the rounds, and yeah, the fight was stopped on the 10th round.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they called it a head clash though, or like accidental head clash. They actually went to the cards, even though
it
seemed like it was a punch to me.
It was from a punch, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was from a punch too, but now they called it accidental. But it was all elementary, rudimentary, either way. Mars dominated the fight. It was pretty easy work for him. Gutierrez, he's a durable guy, so I didn't think Mars was going to stop him unless he just caught him cold early or something. But Mars did his thing. He did his thing in there. He didn't. Gutierrez was kind of trying to get into a groove, get into a rhythm towards the later rounds, kind of like he did against Mijares, where he lost that fight, but he managed to give Mijares a lot of trouble later in the fight. Mars is just on another level though, compared to a fat old Mijares though. So he went in there, dominated him, just rattled off combinations, kind of used certain clinches and such strategically, and pretty well handled his business in there. It schooled him.
Sounds like Mars to me. Hey, at least props to him though, because if I was him, I would have nightmares from that Gonzalez fight, considering that it was in the same exact location. So,
yeah,
seems like he's recovered from that pretty decently.
He's not going to have nightmares fighting Gutierrez, man. Gutierrez slipped in the shower, so his footwork's terrible.
Hey, man. Well, this is just kind of like one of those things where he fought the guy who fell in the shower the night before the day of fighting Frampton. So we need to see that against Carl. We need to have that incident replayed over again, right?
No, I would love to see Mares versus Frampton, though. I think that would be a great fight. And it's a different fight, not one we've had. Like, we've had Leo Frampton twice. Seems that we're going to get
Leo Mares
twice now. It's unnecessary, man. There's other good fights.
Yeah. The featherweight division is not unlike the light middleweight division. There's just a lot of guys that you can mix and match, and there's such great fights to be had, but they just haven't fought each other, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. But let's talk about Leo. What did you think of his performance, Naoto?
I thought it was kind of a classic Santa Cruz performance. He's not the straight-up knockout puncher that he was at 118 and 122, even though Avalos himself is a guy that originally started at 118. But he beat the shit out of Avalos, man. He beat his ass. The Avalos had fought him a bunch of times in the amateur, so I think he had a little bit better of a bead on Santa Cruz than he has with other guys of a similar caliber. Frampton and so on, and even Maxayo. But it was pretty easy to tell what was going to happen. The Santa Cruz just beat his ass, went in there, just thumped on his head a bunch of times, and the ref eventually stopped it because all those were just going to take a bad beating in there as the fight went on, and there was really no reason for that, in spite of what Avalos' corner and his dad really wanted to see happen. I guess they thought he was just going to land some sort of crazy shot later in the fight and knock Santa Cruz spark out, but that likely wasn't going to be happening.
I thought it was sloppy, man. Like, early on, I know kind of Cruz has got that fun style, but I thought it'd just be easy to use the straight punches, and every time early on he was doing well, but like, I thought Avalos kind of came back into it from like 5th and the 6th, especially the 6th. I thought Avalos was tagging Leo quite too easily and quite too often. And that stoppage, I thought it was a terrible stoppage. Yeah, he kind of shipped some punches early on at the start of the round. But as the fight progressed, the impact and the effect the punches from Leo had on Avalos weren't as much as they were early on. Early on, he was kind of getting shook a bit.
That's true.
Getting kind of affected and stumbling around. But as the fight went on, like, he was taking his power quite easily, and he was throwing his own punches back. And I personally think the stoppage was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, because I don't agree. I don't agree with the stoppage. I don't agree with the stoppage until a guy is fucking flat and looking up in the sky. That's up until that point. Give him every opportunity. But
even that final shot, it was like a 1-2, and the two kind of grazed his neck and didn't really land clean. And what's the ref's name so I can shit on him properly? Tom Taylor just like, yeah, that's enough, man. I'm stopping the fight. And it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, Avalos was coming back into it. Like, he'd probably get knocked out the following round, but at least let him continue, man. The guy is fucking, fighting his heart out. So give him the respect to let him continue, man.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that, definitely. And, to Jazz's point, Leo Santa Cruz fights down to his level of opposition. He's done it pretty consistently throughout his entire career. He could look great and fight against, the best of the best out there and hang with them on even terms or, slightly better than even terms. Or he can fight a guy, like Avalos, who's, clearly several levels below that elite level and, and still have a kind of a rough and tumble fight with them. But outclassing them, but not to such a degree that you think that the guy has absolutely zero shot whatsoever of being able to maybe come back later. But it is what it is, and I'd imagine that Avalos' past knockouts, especially recently, probably had something to do with the ref stopping it as early as he did.
Yeah, possibly. That's a good point. But yeah, I haven't really got anything else to say about that card. I know, was it DeMarco got a first round stoppage or something?
That very impressive first round stoppage. I mean, Eddie Ramirez was an undefeated prospect, not just an undefeated prospect, but I mean, the way that PBC has largely been doing it the last year or two, they've largely been matching prospect against prospect in fights that for years now, for at least a decade, and since I've really posted and followed and talked about boxing online and such, that people have really wanted. That people want to see prospect versus prospect. They want to see the king of the prospects and then them go on to become contender, and then contender versus contender, and then the best contender fights the champion, right? And that's what Ramirez was pretty much doing. He beat several undefeated guys, and he was pretty much in line to possibly get a title shot at some point in the near future at 140. And he went in there against DeMarco, and DeMarco just caught him with a great left uppercut up off the ropes, and Ramirez just couldn't recover from him. He was kind of walking around drunk for about half the round, with DeMarco kind of following him around and teeing off on him before the ref stopped it. I didn't quite like that stoppage necessarily either, because I did think that Ramirez could have made it to the bell, could have had the minute to recover, and then come back, maybe a little bit better for the wear, and maybe done something, got into a rhythm of his own, not unlike he has in the past, against Ryan Carl, for instance. But I mean, props to DeMarco. He pounced on a hurt opponent, and he managed to get him out of there. Managed to force the ref's hand, and I mean, shit, DeMarco might be in line for something significant in the near future. I mean, that was a big win for him.
Yep. I'm just going to try and wait for Leon to get on, but he said he's going to be a few minutes. I just want to see if he jumps on.
I actually wouldn't mind a DeMarco versus Broner rematch, as a matter of fact, considering the fact that I think DeMarco hasn't regressed nearly as far as Broner has in the last couple of years. Matter of fact, I think DeMarco might have actually even progressed slightly. I think he's kind of been an up-and-down fighter, but I think he's on a really good upswing. As of late, he gave good fights to Figueroa and to Jesse Vargas, and I think him versus Broner 2 might actually be a reasonably good fight. At the very least, two big names, and I think DeMarco would definitely like some get back there. And if Broner's able to kind of demolish him the way that he did in the first fight, then maybe Broner has something left in the tank as well.
Yeah, that'd be a good fight. But I do have my salty friend on the line. Are you there, Leon?
Yeah, hello.
How are you, young man?
Yeah, good. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thanks. Me and Neota and Lim popped on just to shit on me and Erislandy Lara. Thank you for that, Lim. But he's left now, as he does. But have the floor, Leon. We've discussed the New York card, so the 154 card, and we just finished talking about the StubHub card. So just go with whatever you want.
So you haven't talked about Groves yet or anything?
No, we're saving it for you.
Okay, yeah. Them Charlos look good now, don't they?
It's like you didn't want to say that.
Lions only Leon.
Well, look, Cam, as I stated last week, there's no one's a bigger fan. But you've got I had someone DM me going trying to say, oh, you must have been gutted with that. You must have been upset you won. It's like, why would you be a boxing fan if someone you didn't rate and then suddenly comes out, they step up and start knocking people out cold? Why would I be disappointed by that? Like, that's a really good thing, isn't it? That fighters you didn't rate achieve more than you expect them to. That's why we watch this sport. So, and they've gone full heel.
There's a difference between being a hater of a fighter, of a person, and being a hater of, being okay with mediocrity.
I've got no loyalty now to if your train is running and it's good and it's on a winning streak, I'll jump on the back of it.
And
not a problem.
it.
And if you crash and fail, I will drop you. Like, I've got no loyalty. I want to be on the winning side as much as possible. That's what this sport's about, isn't it? Like things being turned on their head, and I tell you one thing. Like I was speaking to now, they're not the TMT twins anymore. They've got to be the Lion Only twins, haven't they? Really, I would think we should rename them. So I was speaking to them over the weekend because they were basking in their well-earned glory. So, to be fair to them, they've always been on that. They've always been big supporters. But, like, the Lubin thing is, some of the fights we criticised the Charlos for where we didn't think they were quite stepping up enough, Varnesses, these kind of little steps they took. Lubin missed those, so they did it right, and we were just being impatient, maybe.
That's a great fucking point. That's a great point.
That's the point. Like, he didn't have his Varnes or did they fight Rosado and a few of those other kind of guys?
Those gatekeepers.
Lubin wasn't tested in that way, as in someone like
the crafty. He didn't have the crafty vet that didn't have a lot of pop.
You got to go through a Varnes.
Yeah,
you got to go through a Varnes to be able to throw a shot and learn to be able to throw that shot that he landed on Lubin. Right, that kind of experience in the ring, and that's what happened, wasn't it? It's like the look on Charlo's face is like, oh, he's just fallen into my trap. Like, it was just like, oh, why did he do that? Do you know what I mean? I think he was even a bit shocked that the opportunity arose, and it was a fantastically timed punch. Yeah. But I think that's what's missing from Lubin, and that's what I was talking to about with Mark. That those little fights were missed for Lubin, but he can come again. Like, he's a really, really good kid. I just liked, it was just fun to wind up Cam. Because he got clean iced inside a round.
You're a bastard.
But he was but I was saying, like, I think he kills Hurd, and Mark was going, oh no, because he's a Hurd fan. So I go, oh, he's got a dog in him. I was like, you don't matter what dog you've got in you if you're lying on the floor twitching like Lubin. Like, you can have all the dog you like, but if you're like, half the
Hatton had a
on
lot
the
of
floor.
dog in him. Hatton had a lot of dog in him until he got fucking
exactly.
ran by Pacquiao's left hand.
And that's just what I see happening. Like, that Hurd fight, he was getting lit up by a faded Trout, right? Like, Trout didn't look he was doing all right early, but he didn't look as good as he did against Charlo. But, like, Hurd got the job done, but he's a big dude at that weight. But Charlo would be licking his lips for some of those opportunities and those shots that were landing. He'd be gone.
I actually would prefer that fight more than the Lara fight. I don't really want to see Lara against anybody unless.
Or there's a surprise cam, because I didn't watch them live. I got up and saw. Well, I didn't need to really watch the Lubin fight because I could see that on Twitter. Like, that was just that done. So then I watched the Hurd fight, and then I read on the boxing scene, oh, Lara wins 12-round decision, drops the guy in the third round. It's like, oh, so Lara knocks his guy down, then lets him off for the next 7 rounds. It's like, I don't need to watch that. I can go back and watch a fight from 4 years ago if I want to watch that again. So yeah. I didn't pay any attention. Like,
rewatch Lara versus Ishe?
Yeah, I'd love. Is that Charlo in the same camp still as Lara now, or is he a different one?
No.
He should fight him. He should just fight him.
Yep.
Like,
I agree.
Hurd can wait because he's young. He should just fight Lara and just put that,
Yeah, he said that he was down to do it
ices him.
afterwards.
The man's going to be he'll be one of the most popular boxers on the planet if he fucking leaves Lara twitching.
You'll be on the train again.
I'm on the train.
I don't know, man. To me, it sounds
No,
like...
I'm not on the train. I'm not on the train like that because I can't be because it's too late for me. I've said too
Nah,
much.
but
They're not letting me on the train.
It's like you got it's like you're trying to hang on to the train as it's moving.
Like I think it's really enjoyable.
He's on. What's that little shit that you can connect to the end of the train where it's not like a full car. There's like no roof on it.
No, he's
kind
not
of out in the element.
No, he's
like
not.
the trains in India. I'm on the roof.
Yeah, exactly, on the roof. That's what I was about to say.
Leon's the hobo that hitched a ride. He just jumped on.
I'm the guy running after the train as the train disappears into the distance. But I just like they seem to really embrace like their new role,
The
and
bad
they
guy
obviously
role.
want to fight people, and they like being dicks, and and they like.
You like that? You like that bit, don't you? You like the fact that they like being dicks.
Look, I have swings and roundabouts. With some people, it's not palatable, right? You don't want to see them being a prick. With them, it seems like quite
Suits them.
like cartoon characters, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Broner, where like Broner's funny and then he does something mental and has got like kids with 12 different women. I don't want to hear about all that shit. But what they do, they were throwing chairs around when they were ringside fighting people. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I think the chair was thrown at them though. So.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah, no, it was a good card.
Yeah. The chair was actually thrown by Lubin's corner at Jamal.
Wow, that's pretty salty.
It is.
So it doesn't get much worse than that unless you got an uncle. That's,
yeah, exactly.
All right, now, Leon, did you manage to watch any of the StubHub fights?
No, I wasn't going to watch that stuff.
I totally understand. All right, let's move on to Groves Cox because I was waiting for you to come on because you saw the fight, and I think did you manage to catch most of the undercard that I was telling you about?
No, I didn't. I didn't. Like something came up with work. I haven't had a chance to see any of it, so
Right.
I just saw the Cox, the Groves Cox. I rewatched that though.
All right.
So I've seen that twice.
What were your thoughts on that?
Like it was a fantastic, like that looked like it really hurt, that body shot on those slow-mos that were going around Twitter. Like, that was a lovely shot. And you kind of didn't see that one either, a bit like the Charlo shot. You had to watch it a few times. But yeah, I think Cox obviously thought he only had one plan, and that was to go out on his shield. So he went for it, and he made an exciting fight. So I don't think anyone can question his willingness to engage. But I think, I feel like I don't know. I think he hit with it, but it felt like there was a second where he could have got up, and he decided to. Do you see that little twitch to get up, and then he kind of just chose not to?
I think he had a cheeky bet on himself to get stopped in the fourth.
It felt a bit weird, didn't it? The way he wasn't like rolling side to side. It was just I don't know how big it was, but there's just a little something there. He maybe thought he couldn't win.
Yeah, I saw something as well. To be honest.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But he put a lot of pressure on Groves. I mean,
he did better than I thought. Like he landed some.
There was bits
decent
where you were
left
worried.
hands.
Like, there was moments where you thought he was going to catch you when they were trading, didn't you?
Yeah.
And they maybe just cuffed him or didn't quite land, and you thought, he could get Groves here.
When that was going on, I saw that shot that Groves landed on him where he stumbled across the ring and then Foster jumped in and stopped it. So I was thinking, he might get caught here. But the thing about Groves is like when he's at that mid distance, the counters like nice when Cox was trying to land his southpaw jab to get close. He was just getting picked off with the right hand counters all night.
And he did good body work, didn't he? And he was jabbing to the body, and he was moving better. But
anytime someone gets on his chest, he looks so uncomfortable. Groves does. He looks like he just wants to trade to get him off the chest, and that's when he's just so open.
And you don't feel that gas tank there's something still not right there, is there?
Yeah.
Or he just seems to lose maybe a bit of composure, so he loses a bit of shape when he looks like he's suffering more than he is. Do you know what I mean? Like he gets a bit wild. I think
he every fight as well. I think that he burns a lot of nervous energy as well. And as much as I love his intense ring walk to the Prodigy, like I think some of that is that like he's so intense and he's so highly strung at the start of a fight. I think he's just burning all his fuel away.
But I tell you, like that wasn't like most matchroom fighters, like who go away and stuff. At least he went out there to do what he went out there and just thought, I'm going to go for this. This is my only chance of beating him. I felt like that changed, didn't it? He came out in the second and was like, right. Maybe he felt something, like maybe he felt a bit of power and just thought, I'm going to have to go for this. And so you can't commit his willingness to go out, like to lay it all out there.
No, he
could be in some fun fights, you know.
Yeah, I give Cox props for that. Like, I didn't think he was gonna. Don't get me wrong, he didn't have loads of success, but he had bits, and I didn't think he was gonna have any success. I thought it was gonna be easy for Groves. So, and I don't really think he's a super middleweight. I think he needs to just be a bit more disciplined, get down to middleweight, and I think there's some really good fights for him.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah.
But Neil,
it'd be interesting to see what happens. Like if he could pick up the loser of his tournament, like Callum Smith or whoever, if Groves beats Eubank, maybe he can pick up Eubank fight. There's still some fights at 168 for him.
Him and Ryder, I think, would be a good fight.
Yeah.
But Ryder's in another position. We'll probably get to that soon. But Neil, did you manage to catch this?
Yes, I did, and I kind of echo the sentiments of both you guys. Cox went out and tried to press the issue, and he got pressed. that's what happened. He got pressed. He went out there. Groves was just a better fighter, quicker on the draw. Was able to kind of just catch him, and he gave him all the opportunities in order to kind of allow Groves to kind of shine in there. And Groves looks really good, man. Ultimately, I think the big showdown, him and Eubank, that's a good fight. That's a very good fight. I think he's a little bit quicker than Eubank, and he can catch him before Eubank is able to kind of return fire. But I think Eubank, if he puts a lot of pressure on Groves, can give him a lot of trouble, because I think he's a little bit quicker in combination than Groves is. But Groves here against Cox, he looked great. He's one of those fighters that, kind of like earlier we criticized a fighter for not kind of stepping on the gas against a guy that is overmatched against him. Groves doesn't allow that to happen. He went in there, he busted Cox's ass, and got rid of him. Gave Cox even possibly that mental doubt that Leon was talking about, where Cox probably could have gone on physically, but he just chose not to. He chose to take the easier way out because of the fact that he knew that just a further prolonged beatdown was going to come at the hands of Groves, and Groves has that kind of meanness, that mentality about him that, if you're in my way, I'm going to get you out of there real quick, and that's what he did. So,
and I'm not saying he's like a legit quit, because he was obviously clearly hurt by a horrible, nasty body shot, but there was just something there. I'm not saying it was like Davis or something else.
I get the sense that he could have, had he really dug deep, had he had that Arturo Gatti in him.
He would have got iced in the next. He would have got iced in the next couple of exchanges, but
right. And he probably thought that, I can get up and try and be a hero and get iced, or I can just call it a day because I'm probably losing this fight, and he chose to call it a day.
Yeah.
Did either of you manage to catch the John Ryder versus Nielsen fight?
No, I didn't. Can we talk quickly a little bit about Eubank Groves coming up? It's quite an interesting. People have got polaring opposite opinions. I've been accused of being a fanboy of Eubank, and then also told by KH is going, why would we think, he was on Twitter saying to me, why do we think that if Eubank beat Groves, it'd be such a kind of upset? So, because he's kind of on the Eubank side, and there's people really hard on the Groves side. So it's going to be a great build-up, because everyone's got quite differing views. But I think as it seems to have got closer and closer. I think I think I slightly favour Groves still, but it's close, and that's the best. I think that's the best all British fight you can make. Apart from maybe if Tyson Fury was still a legitimate boxer, we'd say Fury AJ, but that's not. So you've got to say this is the biggest fight with the two of the biggest names we've got in the country. I'd say Eubank's second to AJ now.
I don't know, Leon. I'm sure
and Groves is still up there as well.
I'm sure the Malta Boxing Commission could still make AJ versus.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like we're getting just such a good fight, and it's just such a shame that they took our pay-per-view money now and rather than saving it for this. Like, give us these two free, and then I would have paid for, if I didn't go to the fight, which we're planning on going. I would have paid for this pay-per-view, saying you give me these two, fine. I'll buy this one.
Yeah, that would have been the perfect ad. That would have been the perfect preview because they both got fucking vicious knockouts, fun fights, and now they're gonna come across each other, and they have that meanness and those bad intentions pointed right at each other. It's gonna be a great fight.
And like that couple of pay-per-view, like at least I know where it's going. It's going towards something buying that pay-per-view. Do you know what I mean? That there's these tournaments, and as long as they keep on doing the tournaments, I don't mind every now dipping in a bit of money for pay-per-view if it keeps on means I get these World Series things. Paying for AJ pay-per-views, what am I building on? Just him as a brand. I don't want to pump my money into one fight. I want to pump it into something that might keep going and give us good fights over the next couple of years. So that's why, but I won't buy it now because they didn't give us these two free.
Out of principle, now you're not doing it.
Out of principle, yeah, we can't come in here and rant and rave, and then bite the bullet and crumble. But we're going to the fight anyway, aren't we, Cam? So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Definitely. I mean, even if it's outside,
we'll just buy like bubble jackets and pretend we're back in the 1990s.
And it's nice to see that whatever happens, Callie's still having that party, still having a good time.
His facial.
There's some amazing stuff going on Twitter, some great videos and like little things people have made. He's a lunatic.
His facial expressions are the best.
He's having fun. But no, tell me about this. The Ryder card fight was meant to be really good, and he looked good, right?
Well, bro, the whole undercard. You know how like you and me always say like the best card was that Russian card from years ago. Like I think this is up there, bro. I think the new thing to do is competitive 4-rounders for an undercard because they're quick and they're fun as fuck.
Yeah. That's very true.
That's the new technique I think most promoters should use. Forget like boring 10-rounders for like boring belts that no one cares about. Just do 4-rounders with youngsters versus old vets and just see how they get on. Roll the dice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll talk about Ryder fight first. So Ryder versus Nielsen. Ryder looked really good, man. I know he kind of blows hot and cold sometimes, but he was hot on Saturday night, and he was just countering Nielsen with the straight left numerous times. Nielsen was kind of falling in with his jab, and he was just open to uppercuts, which Ryder obliged him with, and he was hooking off the uppercut with the same hand, and he just looked so comfortable in the pocket, man. Like Nielsen just looked very basic, man. He looked like a guy that was just up and coming and not really fought anyone before, even though he had this high ranking with the WBA. Second round, towards the end of the round, they were kind of grappling and wrestling a bit, and Ryder threw a sweet right hook. His gum shield came flying out. He got up, kind of saved by the bell. The ref pointed him to the wrong round and like Nielsen to the wrong corner, and Nielsen started walking towards Ryder's corner like he was gonna go sit down, and Ryder was like, nah, that's my corner, mate. Yours is over there. It was quite funny. For the next 2 rounds, Ryder was just beating down on combinations in the pocket, just movement, using the shoulder to block the shots and coming back with the left hand counter. And then in the 5th, both guys went to throw like lead right hooks, and Ryder landed first, really hurt him. Again, gum shield went flying out, and Nielsen was just dazed. He was kind of like, like when you don't know what's going on, and he was looking at his gum shield like, oh, there's my gum shield. Next minute, fucking Ryder comes in, straight left, right uppercut, boom, guys out, dropped. Ref waved it off. A lot of people on Twitter I saw on my timeline when I watched it live, like, he didn't need to take those unnecessary shots. I thought the ref was a bit too far away. I think if he was a bit closer, he would have just jumped in. But it was a kind of spectacular knockout. And yeah, Ryder's kind of back in the mix now. Him and maybe Zuga would be a decent fight. I know he's took the higher ranking now, so we'll see what happens. But definitely both of these, it's on YouTube, good quality. So when you're free, watch it, man. It was fun.
Yeah, definitely going to. I've got it lined up.
And just down the undercard, I'm going to go through it all just because I complain so often that we're fed dog shit undercards these days. So with so many fun fights and controversial fights, I'm going to go through it. So we had a young Londoner, Daniel Keegan. He's southpaw, tall and rangy, against a Bulgarian kind of journeyman, Angel Emilov. Yeah, I think it was just one of those fights where, Keegan's team probably thought, yeah, we'll get this older guy in. But yeah, Emilov was just finding it too easy to get on the inside of Keenan, and he was just kind of working him clean shots to the body, and any heavy landed shot on Keenan, he was visibly hurt, and he couldn't really take any of those shots. And one thing I loved in between rounds, between the third and the fourth round, his coach said to him, and he kind of gave him a heart to heart, and he said, "Look, I've got you losing this. If you win the next round, it's a draw. But if you want to, if you want to win the fight, you got to go out and knock him out. I don't like saying this, but that's what you have to do." And yeah, it was kind of. It was refreshing to hear honesty in the corner. You hear a lot of cornermen just feed hot air up their fighters' asses just to tell him what they want to hear. But yeah, it was refreshing, man. And the 4-rounder was scored by the ref, and the ref had it for Emilov, so that was a bit of an upset. But it was good to see him, and the fact that a lot of people probably thought he'd get a robbery and get away with it or get a draw. But yeah, man, he didn't. He lost the fight, and he can go back and regroup. But loss is not the worst thing, man, as long as you learn from it. Vicious knockout, Mikhail Lawal. I think he's at cruiserweight. Let me just have a look on BoxRec. Lawal, yeah, he was at cruiserweight. He's fighting it again, a kind of journeyman. I think it was Lawal's fourth fight. He's 22 years old. He fought Rudan. Rudan was just, he couldn't really handle the power of Lawal. Even though Lawal was kind of just loading up with the right hand, he was trying to hold a lot. In the second round of a 4-rounder, he got a point taken off him for excess holding, and then in the same round, a barrage of punches kind of laid him against ropes, and he kind of half fell out the ropes, managed to climb back in, took the count, and then continued. But just a bit later, there was a kind of rangefinder jab, and then a beautiful right uppercut right on the button. He was just out. Ref just waved it off straight away. He was kind of giving medical attention. He did get up and sit in his chair, but it was a vicious KO. Another nice KO, Keenan Thomas versus Federic Katona. Fourth round, there was just a sweeping right hand right on the button. Stopped the guy in the fourth of the 4-rounder. Controversy in a fight between Lewis Adolphe and Nathan McIntosh. First round, we got our favourite ref, Howard Foster, on this one. Basically, he shouted break. He was a bit far away from the action, and I don't know if Adolphe didn't hear it or he was just caught up in the action where he basically threw a vicious right hook and just dropped Nathan viciously, like I said, and just instantly disqualified because Howard Foster did shout break, and he was naughty, but he the way he was kind of arguing afterwards, he thought that he did take the step back, but he didn't, man. He just threw that right hook straight away and iced the guy. And finally, Leon, you and me talked about this dude last year in November. I actually dug it out, and
he was on the Brentwood show, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. He was in
the skate card.
Yep, exactly. Good memory, man.
Yep.
But we're talking about Nathaniel Wilson, a strange son of Mr. Eubank, and it's crazy how we had another Eubank Harlem. He was fighting him Friday on the Next Gen show, and we had this Eubank. So yeah, man, there's too many Eubanks and Bens about, Leon.
Yeah, too many of them. I don't know if he's Eubank's kid, because you don't get ice like that if you've got Eubank DNA, do you?
Well,
you come with a free chin if you're a Eubank.
Yeah, that's true. But this is what you and me thought. This is what
test needed.
This is what we thought of him back in November.
What else was on that card? Chris Eubanks' estranged son.
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty poor, man.
He was fucking rubbish.
You were straight to the point. It's fucking rubbish. But he was, and he got ice, man.
He was rubbish.
He's just too wild. He threw this really wild right hand and left himself open. Tried to throw the left hook after it, but his opponent, Johnny Phillips, had his own left hook, which left his arm a bit faster and landed on the button. Nathaniel Wilson, he tried to get up, did a little kind of stanky leg as he was trying to get up, and Howard Foster again, he just he looked in his eyes, and I thought it was a good stoppage, to be honest. I thought if he would have let it continue, he'd probably get badly hurt, but yeah, man, Leon, you need to go back and watch these fights, man. You'll be very entertained.
Yeah, I'm going to do it, man.
But yeah, that's about it for that card. What else have we got left, really? Do you want to talk about the Sheedy car and Cameron fight?
Yeah, I watched that fight. Because I didn't watch the next gen thing. The undercard was pretty. Some alright fights, but nothing memorable. But that Sheedy, who was he fighting? I couldn't remember that guy's name today.
Liam Cameron.
Yeah, that was a good fight. Good in the sense of I was highly entertained. Low in the sense of any kind of fucking defense for Sheedy, because he was getting hit to the body and to the head all the time, wasn't he?
Yeah.
They didn't look like they were in the same weight division, but it's all about round 4, really. It was a fun fight, but then round 4, he gets dropped with numerous body shots, doesn't he?
Yeah, the left hook to the body, he couldn't take it, man. But he was down 4 times, 10-5 round, crazy.
And he was down 4 times, and he kept on getting up, so fair play to him. And then he went fucking insane and just started covering up his body with both his forearms and running around just with his head. And then he got deducted a point.
Yeah, because he did go in with his head like he wanted to nut him. Yeah, like he did try and kind of nut him. So I think that
but
point
he covered up
deduction
his
was
body
fair.
cam and just took shots and then tried to get at him with his head.
Yeah,
it was fucking mental. I mean, to lose around 5-10, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and then there's the times where he just had his hands low and he was letting him hit him for free. It's like, come on, bro, why are you giving him free shots?
It was like I said, it was like a weird shit good fight is how I described it to someone.
Yeah, that's
like
perfect.
It was not the highest quality, but like
just
sometimes it's just entertaining to see kind of. It obviously meant so much to both guys, even though Sheedy clearly lost his head. But like, you could feel the tension between them, and the guy did well and did a good job on him, didn't he? But that was free to air. Big Glenn was back on the air, and the woman who presented it was good. It was like for free boxing. I thought it was really good. What do you think of it, Cam? For something that's completely free.
Yeah, the quality of the production was a bit low, but props to Dennis Hobson. He does try and get these type of fights on platforms where most people can watch it. I know he had stuff that he was doing with Channel 5, and Glenn on commentary is really good.
And the woman who was presenting it knew what she was talking about. So it might have been low on visual quality, but I think the content was quite good. The people knew what they were doing.
Yeah, for people on Sky, it was channel 424, I think. So definitely watch out. It was on Friday. I recorded it and watched it a few days later. But Hobson always provides competitive fights, I think. He's a very good promoter and matchmaker for those kind of English level, get touching British level guys.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed watching that card. I have no issues with that kind of. It's never about the level of the boxing. It's about the competitiveness of the fights, as we always say on here. So I don't mind. I thoroughly enjoyed that fight as much as any, more than some of the big fights this year. I enjoyed that fight. So it's always. I'm always happy when there's stuff like that on.
That's what
as long as they're matched up well.
Yeah, we want entertainment. We want action. We don't want boring fucking 12-rounders.
Because that goes on to the next gen thing. Because we were talking about that last week, and I kind of passed over or didn't notice that Bellotti fight looked like that was a good fight on paper, and the whole card should be like that, Cam.
Yeah,
shouldn't it? If it was 4 fights like that with guys reasonably well matched, close enough in rankings and stuff, I wouldn't have a problem with that card.
Yeah.
But they're fighting nobodies apart from the main event, right?
Yeah, there was one other good fight that I enjoyed, which I'll send you
I watched that as well. Yeah, with that young kid, not the young kid, but the guy who's just turned.
It's on his debut, Eric Israel, the black dude.
Yeah.
That was a fun fight, man.
Yeah,
I liked his story as well. I'm a sucker for a good story.
The story's good. He wasn't the best technically.
Yeah,
but
he was a bit. He was a bit stiff and robotic, man. But like he could punch, yeah.
But like, wasn't he? He came over here. He got his masters, and then decided
to put it aside and go and get into
exactly.
boxing. Yeah, it's crazy.
And his family didn't know he was boxing. Yeah, it was good. It was good. And the main fight was really good.
Yeah, like initially I was disappointed with Bellotti. I thought he was kind of like come forward, but just throwing for the sake of throwing, not really having any. Like a lot of guys, they throw a shot to set up like the counter, where he looked like he was just plodding forward, throwing anything just for the sake of it. But Cunningham was good early on, man. I thought he was boxing his Bellotti's ears off, but Bellotti's power kind of got him out of that sticky mess.
He didn't have enough on. He didn't have enough on his punches, did he?
Nah, he was kind of like stay off me punches. He didn't have power behind him, but you could tell like he had like an engine on him. He could probably fight like that for 12 rounds, but when he started getting hit with some of those big shots,
he can punch a bit, that kid. But I mean, he's got a way to go yet, hasn't he?
I'd like to see a rematch maybe down the line. It probably won't happen, but I felt a bit bad for Cunningham because I thought he was doing really well. Like up until that point, it was quite easy for him. Bellotti looked quite basic. It's just that his power got
very
him out
basic.
problem.
But I didn't watch it live. I never felt, and I knew the result, and I watched it. I think it sometimes changes your perception of a fight, but I never felt like he had enough to keep Bellotti off him for those 12 rounds.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah.
To keep him at bay, like he was always going to get him and hurt him. It's just could he take it? But I mean, yeah, that was a good fight. They should the whole card should be like that.
I agree. If you're going to do this next gen,
we gave it that with next gen, but Brits against Brits without sounding all Brexit, I think it helps. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Though, doesn't it? Brits versus Brits definitely helps those kind of small hall cards.
Yeah, especially helps with the crowd as well, because then everyone's going to bring their own like little crew, and you're going to get a great atmosphere in there. Normally, like the York Hall doesn't really struggle with atmosphere, but yeah, Brits versus Brits would definitely be.
But we have to talk about that crowd stuff, don't we, Cam? After we've talked about his card.
Which part?
Did you not hear about the kid who was killed at that fight in Wolverhampton? In the crowd.
No, I've not heard about this.
Oh, right. So, I saw that those Groves fights, in the crowd. Do you see all those? They were big, big fights.
Yeah, I saw some of that on Twitter, people filming it, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was some local show in Wolverhampton, some young 19-year-old kid had his throat slashed in the fucking venue.
That's fucking crazy, man.
It's getting out of control, Cam.
It kind of makes you not want to go to some shows because you think, what's going to happen? You're going there for entertainment. Next thing you're in a big ruckus.
I tell you, Cam, I've been going to fights, too long. I've seen fights in the 80s, 90s, all the way up. It's never been as bad as this, Cam.
Yeah, man, it's getting out of hand.
Never been as bad as this. The problem is, you see all those Groves fights in the crowd, like they were big fights, and those poor stewards, they're kids. These, on Friday they're doing grublets on ice or, some other fucking thing. And then they suddenly got a load of fucking coked up maniacs in front of them.
Yeah,
you need to bring in proper security. You can't be a nice 18-year-old girl and a couple of kids and young lads in their 20s.
Yeah, they can't break up a fight. I've seen the same thing. Someone was filming the fights, and then the security kid came and jumped over, and he was gonna go do something. But it's like you're tiny, bro. What are you gonna do realistically? You're just gonna get hurt.
I'll tell you the big difference. So the big difference I've noticed from going to fights as long as I have, that the crowds are getting younger and younger. Like when I used to go to fights with my, with family and stuff. Just 1 second, I've just got to turn something off so I can go into this other room. Give me 2 seconds.
No problem. But yeah, I'm just going back to the next gen until Leon gets back. There was another decent fight between my boy, the big Ted Cheeseman, he facing opponent that actually came to fight, even though he was kind of given short notice. Quintero. He was a Panamanian, but he's based in Spain. But he did give it a go. He was kind of looking for just like the wild left hooks, but it was a kind of opponent Cheeseman needed where he could kind of test things and show variation in his punches, and that's one thing he's good at, man. Like he'll look at what his opponent's doing. Okay, he's bending over. Okay, I'll throw the uppercut and the hook, and yeah, I'm a big fan of Cheeseman, man. I'm impressed. Sky always whining on the last few fights. I was like, oh, look, Liam Williams needs to decide what he wants to do with the belt. The British board need to decide so some of these boxers can move on. It's like, no. Ted Cheeseman can like go on past the British and maybe come back to it afterwards. You can't just wait around for other people to do stuff. If nothing's moving, then you need to fucking pull your finger out, and Eddie needs to pull his finger out and maybe move on past the British and come back to it at a later stage, man. You can't just fucking wait for others take the initiative.
Sorry about that, Cam.
No problem.
Sorry.
Yeah, just going back to
Yeah, what I was saying was I think that there's definitely the younger crowd has changed. Like when I first started going to fights, there was just like proper older tough bastards, and they just give someone a slap, and you just like you wouldn't cause trouble in those places because you didn't want to get a fucking a kick in from someone who was actually scary, because these just look like they're young kids fighting who are drinking and done a load of drugs,
coked up,
don't they?
Yeah.
Like that is definitely changed. But it's definitely worse than all the years I've been going to boxing. I go into an arena now and you think, I don't know about you, but I definitely, the last couple of years, you get a bit of an adrenaline rush and you think, right, you've got to kind of scope it out a bit because you've been going to enough fights to see that there's more of this stuff going on. So you're always having a little look around the crowd, aren't you? Like, okay, they look like they're here for something more than just boxing. You get that vibe when you go into places.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me being paranoid, but you definitely have to be on your mettle when you first go in there and get the lay of the land, right?
Yeah, you kind of like observe like the whole area and see like what's going on, and you take it all in initially. But you have to do that these days. Like, it's a shame that you have to do that, but there's so many risks out there these days. It's like, do you want to get stabbed for no reason because some guy was fucking looked at you the wrong way? It's not needed, man. Like, life's too short.
It's all right, but the problem is you just feel like I sometimes get that vibe of that Eubank Billy Joe thing. It's like they're kind of people there that might just punch you inside the head, like just punch you, and you could be talking to your mate and then just run up and punch you in the face
for no reason.
For no reason. And I get that vibe more and more at boxing. Like, right, yeah, they look like the kind of people who might randomly attack you, so stay away from that lot. But there's definitely more of that vibe in arenas now. That Eubank Saunders thing, there were moments where you're like, right, that is serious lunatics.
It was crazy though. Like, I've only been to like 3 cards in the States, so it's not a big mathematical ratio. But from me, I just see a different vibe. I see like people are there to have fun in the States when they go to boxing. Where in here, like, you do get those little pockets of guys that look like they want to have a tear up.
Exactly, and there's also like where you're sitting, you always kind of work out who's cheering who around you, right? I don't know I think it's something about going boxing that you just have. You think you go through that little checklist, especially recently.
You have to be on your P's and Q's.
Exactly. Not when I was younger. Didn't used to be like that.
Yeah, but
I think there was a lot more respect then.
Back in the 30s,
that's what I meant
different
about the old school guys being there.
You didn't hear my little dig at your age, so we'll move on.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. But I mean, there used to be a bit more of a kind of, I don't know, old school kind of blokes there.
Yeah.
So people didn't cause... I bet there's always been football people going to fights. Like, I remember in the 90s there was always something little going on, but it never felt as random as this kind of seems more like now. Like, you don't know why it might kick off. Then, if there was a bit of a Arsenal firm and a bit of a West Ham firm, something might happen, but you're not in that. You're not a part of that, so it doesn't bother you. But now it just seems a bit more random.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, going to that poor kid who lost his life, I mean, heart goes out to that family. I mean, it's sickening. He goes to watch some boxing and doesn't fucking come home. I mean, that's just not on.
Yeah, it's
disgusting. How's he getting a knife into the fucking venue cam? Yeah. It's not right.
No, especially the thing is, those small holes though, it's difficult to kind of fund good security.
I've been York Hall and seen a few fights, but I've never felt intimidated.
Yeah.
Never felt like I had to be about it.
No, but it's also like, have these small host shows got security and time to kind of search people and that? Most likely not. That's the issue.
But I think even some sense it's like the ones where they have music or like fucking Teletubbies on the Friday and then boxing on the Saturday. I feel like they're the places that are probably even less equipped to deal with some of the fucking savages that are going there. You know what I mean? Like, you're dealing with a load of 12-year-old kids one night and then suddenly you've got a load of fucking coked up nutters in front of you. It's just, I'm like, and they on what they getting paid? Minimum wage? You're not doing anything, are you? No. Running in there for that money.
Crazy.
Sorry, I thought it'd be worth mentioning. Just saying, it's a shame that it feels like that more and more.
No, it's a fair point because obviously a lot of our listeners also go to shows as well. So it's just beneficial being on your P's and Q's, man. If you see anything dodgy, man, just get out your seat and just go towards the exit, man. You don't want to fucking get caught up in bullshit for no reason.
But then I've been to so many fights and met so many people, and you sat there and talked boxing with them all night, and you've never met them before, but they know what they're talking about, and you have long chats with them and miss fights because you were talking about other, just the sport you love, and that happens less and less and less.
But that's one thing I love, though, like just meeting a random person, and you just get on the level with them straight away, and it's like you've known them for years because you love the same boxers, you've seen the same fights, and you just get like you feel like a connection.
And it would also help if Frank Warren didn't fucking start his shows at 5 and fucking finish them at 1 in the morning. No wonder people are fucking battered drunk. I don't think boxing cards or the bar shouldn't be. If you start your card at 4, the bar shouldn't be open until like 7, and it should be shutting at half. If we're gonna, if this is what's going to be going on at fights, I'd rather they opened it at 7 and shut it at 10. I don't care.
I totally agree, but the venue need that money, man. That's part.
I know, but you can't. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're opening the door at 5 and some lads get in there early because they're mates, or they're following this fighter from this town, and they get in there at 5. I mean, what state are they going to be in at 11?
No, I totally agree. I do, but we're in a financial world, man, and money rules. But let's move on. I think we kind of touched upon most of the weekend's fights. Neotel, Leon, anything else you want to talk about?
About fights that have happened?
Yeah, over this weekend.
No. I want to get to the news.
I want to give a special mention to Felix Alvarado, who managed to beat Falan Sarkirin Jr., a.k.a. Turpong Utaida. It was an eliminator for the IBF. So Alvarado is now the mandatory for Milan Melindo. Really good fight. I'm going to have to link it to you guys. Scored a 3rd-round knockout over Utaida. Utaida himself is a pretty damn good fighter, like a guy that's only lost against fellow champions, and even Alvarado has only lost against pretty much two of the best fighters probably of the past 10 years at the lower weights. Juan Carlos Lorevico and Kazuto Ioka, who's is still currently one of the flyweight champions. But Alvarado did a damn good job. He's the 30-2 with 26 knockouts, and I think he'll beat Melindo. I think he has the type of style, that the aggression and the power. Not unlike say like a Madonna-esque fighter, to really give a lot of trouble to Melindo, who tends to wait a little bit too long. So I think Alvarado just scored a huge win, and he may be on the verge of scoring another big one and being able to get that title belt that just kind of basically just missed him, and of not necessarily any fault of his own, simply because of the fact that he was pretty much fighting two of the better fighters at 108 and 112 at the time that he fought them, as opposed to going after one of the weaker champs.
Where did this fight happen?
Happened down in Nicaragua.
Oh, nice.
Felix Alvarado was from Nicaragua, and he's a stablemate of Chocolatito and Co. Down there, and not from Taken or anything, but from the promotion. I can't remember I think it's Promociones de. I can't remember the name specifically of the promotional group down in Nicaragua, but he's a part of that whole crew. Him and Baron Rojas, who scored the big upset over Hecky Butler, and all those guys. A lot of really good fighters actually out of Nicaragua. It's just a matter of they don't necessarily have as much monetary clout as fighters from other countries. So it tends to be a little bit more difficult for them to get those kind of favorable title shots.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Leon, you were mentioning news, I guess, the biggest news just before we came on. Pulev injured. I think it was a shoulder injury. In steps Carlos Takam because he's the highest available IBF ranked fighter. Give us your thoughts, Leon.
Oh, it just, keep on keeping on as heavyweight boxing slams another nail into its own coffin. Yeah, I'm absolutely no issue with this fight. I'm over the moon.
Yeah, I think for
couldn't have happened to a nicer group.
I think for a short last minute replacement, Takam is really a good opponent.
I'll just fight White. He's on the same fucking card.
Fuck White, man. I hate White.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. Look what heavyweight boxing's serving up. This, and then you got fucking White versus Hellenius on the undercard. I mean,
yeah,
you can have heavyweight boxing.
That is awful. The White versus Hellenius, but I think Takam versus AJ is just as good as Pulev versus AJ. I don't really highly rate Pulev that high.
Yeah, I don't rate Pulev. Anybody that's rating Pulev is a fucking idiot. I remember a couple years ago, we were saying like, "Oh my god, like Pulev is going to give Klitschko a tough." I was like, "Fuck out of here! Fuck out of here!" He gave nothing to Klitschko. Nothing. Zero.
The problem is, so look, this fight is a fight AJ's going to win. So, and was this a voluntary for the IBF or a mandatory for the IBF? Is that right, Cam?
Yep.
Pulev? Yeah, it was supposed to be a mandatory.
So was it? The problem is, like, who is it outside of Wilder? Who is there for him to fight? Parker? Do we want to see Parker?
Well, Luis Ortiz is still rated, in spite of because none of the other sanctioning bodies follow the WBC's VADA rules. So you got him, the real King Pill, the real king of the.
I just think
the meds.
He's unfortunately he's gonna have a worse run than Klitschko for like quality of opponents. Like he doesn't have enough good opponents to form the legacy. To leave a legacy on the sport beyond selling pay-per-views and making money, Cam.
That's what we're going to
get. He can never be in the top 50. He'll never be in the top, the high. He'll never be high up the heavyweight rankings unless some people come out of nowhere to challenge him.
I agree, but it is what it is. That's the situation.
It is what it is.
I think their opponents are there for him. It's just a matter of if they'll actually fucking have the fight.
Well, Wilder. There's Wilder. I mean,
if he ever gets his shit together.
Yeah, but I mean, can we even? Why are we? I'm fucking giving those guys oxygen.
Parker's not a bad fighter. I mean, if he goes in there, ices them, and makes them easy work, that's still a great achievement. Even if we all feel like Joshua should and would beat him.
It's not Norton, is it? I mean, I'm not feeling. I'm just, it must be frustrating.
I'd say the crop is better than what Vladimir had to deal with, though. Outside of St. Peter, maybe.
Just about, but I mean but it just goes to prove that it's a dying thing. Like the quality of fighter isn't there. I mean, it's just
and then the fucking WBC has the audacity to talk about making another fucking division like up to 220 or some shit. Get the fuck out of here, man. Fuck that.
But yeah, I mean, if you were, I wonder if they offer their money back. Can you get your money back if you don't want to go to that far? But you're right. It maybe isn't no different to Pulev. Maybe it really isn't.
You got any thoughts, Neota?
Not a bad replacement. I mean, I kind of gave my thoughts for the most part. Pulev ain't shit, so fuck it. Takam ain't much worse. I mean, at least Takam, gave some trouble to Parker for what it's worth, so we can compare performances, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only merit to it, I guess.
Yeah. All right. I haven't really got anything to add either. So the other piece of news interesting to me is detaining I've read December, but Showtime is saying January. I'm not sure what's going on, but Errol Spence versus Lamont Peterson. Neota, go.
I mean, Errol Spence is really beyond Peterson. It's not necessarily Spence's fault that the best guys are at peace. I decided I'm at peace, and they said that I couldn't fight for 10 months, so I went and got married. You know, the Errol Spence fight in the future will be a great fight. But for now, I'm fine where I am. Fuck out of here, Thurman. He needs to stop that shit, man. Spence Peterson's a good opponent for Spence. You know, I think he can definitely give him some trouble. I think technically speaking, Peterson does some things that can give Spence some trouble, but ultimately I think Spence is too strong for him. Too much power. You know, especially early on. You know, he might be able to catch him, not unlike the way that Matisse did a few years back. And you know, even though Peterson. I think it'll be a good fight. I think it'll be fun to watch. You know, he'll apply some pressure to Peterson, and he'll go out on the shield like I think we expect him to. So I like the fight.
I still love that Matisse knockout. I'm just gonna run over here and punch you in the face.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. No, but he took an amino acid pill. Oh my god. He must have been on fucking. That must have been that A-side meth shit that Floyd Sr. was talking about all those years ago. So much fucking salt at that knockout. It's such a great knockout. Because he
just ran up and punched him in the face.
He fucking iced Peterson. Fucking knocked his ass the fuck out.
It's just the way he did it.
Yeah.
But look,
and hopefully Spence can do the same.
I think Peterson beat Danny Garcia, so you know I don't have any problem with Peterson taking this fight on that level. You know, I think he's the same as fighting Danny Garcia, level-wise, personally.
Yeah, I think it's a good fight. I think it depends how Peterson comes out. Like, if he comes out on the back foot, I think you could, for a few rounds, you could give Spence a few issues until kind of Spence finds his range. But it'd be interesting if he kind of, as he does sometimes, he kind of just goes to war, stands in the pocket, and Peterson just like lets off heavy shots. And if that happens, I think it could be like a kind of fight of the year candidate. Both guys just like throwing heavy bombs head to body. It could be really fun, but I think his trainer's gonna like talk him out of that game plan and kind of like try and box on the back foot, because if he goes to war with Spence, I think it's gonna be bad for Peterson, because in the ring, like I don't really. Peterson's a 140 pounder to me. Like he's not that big.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not that big, and I think on the night, like Spence is going to be massive.
Well, it's ironic that you say that, because I think for one of his fight night weights, he was like 165 or some crazy shit.
Wow,
something stupid.
Maybe the scale was broke.
But I think that's the best fight that Spence could get if Furman's being a weirdo, and I don't know what guys, you know. Furman's really the main fight, isn't it?
I won't mind him, and I know he's tied up against. I know Porter's tied. Who's he fighting, Porter? He's fighting your boy, innit, Naoto?
Adrian Granados.
Granados, yeah. So like, and I know he's in a position where maybe he's supposed to get that Thurman rematch, but I won't mind Spence versus
Porter needs to go and do something.
Like what?
That's what I think about Porter. He's got a lot of shots recently.
What do you mean? Like
I'm glad he's not. I'm glad he's not getting the Spence fight. He needs to go and fight someone like Granados, because he ain't done shit recently.
Yeah, like the Bertel fight wasn't that great, was it? Yeah.
That's how I feel about him. Like, you know, I don't think he's going.
I mean, still,
he
did give Thurman hell, you know, and I don't think
he may well did, but he lost, didn't he?
Run that back either. Yeah.
I just feel
if he pieces up Granados and beats him comprehensively, then I think he deserves
I would rather
shot right at it.
I'm saying I'd rather Spence fought Peterson than Porter.
Well, it might as well fight somebody like Peterson before Peterson starts getting kind of long on the tooth, because you know, even though he is a bit more like advanced out there, like in terms of wear and tear and such, as you might imagine, he's not at the point where it's like you could really say like, oh, like he's not what he used to be. You know, he's still a rugged, tough fighter. As it stands.
Any other news you guys want to talk about?
I haven't seen anything recently, really.
Neither have I.
I haven't been looking either.
I have been looking, but not really much stuff announced.
You know, I actually overlooked a couple weeks ago. I had previewed it, but I never reviewed it. Bin Liu or Lubin, the one from China.
I thought you were going to say Bin Laden, then.
Yeah, Bin Laden made his debut as explosive. Nah, but But for Ben Liu, it was pretty explosive. Though, scored a third round knockout in what was a 10-rounder for the WBC Asian Boxing Council title. This was back on September 29th. So yeah, I am a little bit late on this. But it looks like they're gonna go fast with this guy's career. He looks like he could actually make 105 even. I mean, he made 108 with same day weigh-ins as in the AIBA style of boxing, both in the amateurs and also what was he was the AIBA Pro champion. So he's already done 10 rounders in the past. So it's not necessarily a huge surprise that he actually debuted in, quote unquote, debuted in a 10-rounder. Because he was the AIBA Pro Boxing champion at 108. But yeah, I mean, I think he'll be ready for the title shot real soon. And yeah, I mean, I think he might be something special. I think he allows himself to get hit a little bit too easy, although that might have been just him not respecting his opponent Chachai or Benamas's power. But for what it's worth, I'd be willing to bet within maybe a year he could probably fast track his way into a world title shot and possibly win it, unless he does fight against the WBC 108 champ, who it's on the line this weekend. And if it goes like I think it's going to, and Pedro Guevara wins, he's not beating Guevara, but I think he'd stand a great chance against the other guys at 108 or 105. And then also too, Wenheng Manayotin's actually going to be fighting. He's going for 49-0. The TBE train just keeps chugging along. He's going to be fighting Tatsuya Fukuhara, the former WBO champ, recently lost somewhat controversial fashion to Ryu Yamanaka. And hey, 48 have tried and 48 have failed. So the TBE train just keeps on rolling.
Oh, shit.
Wenheng Manayotin, a.k.a. Kayapan Munsri.
Oh, man, those names roll off your tongue, Naota, man. Anything else?
I try. No, that's it.
All right, should we just go into next week? It's crazy, man. As I said at the top of the show, there's so much boxing next week. I'm just going to go...
Cam, I've got to quickly shoot, so I'll just make a quick couple of picks, if that's all right, and then I've got to duck out. Gassiev will win, brutally, I think.
Okay.
Warrington will win in a dull fashion. The Burnett against, I can't pronounce his surname.
Zakainov.
Was Ricky Hatton's boy, we'll just say. I think that's a really, really good fight, and people really rate Burnett's rated, but I wonder if he's got enough power to keep him off. I mean, as boxing wise, I think he's maybe a slicker guy, but I think it's a really close fight, and I'm going to be picking Ricky Hatton's boy.
Just call him Zach.
Zach, I think Zach going to take this. He might stop him, but if Burnett comes through this and wins this, I think that's a great win.
And what about...
I know he's got his flaws, Ricky Hatton's boy, but he's coming to fight.
And what about Catra versus Nurse on the undercard in Leeds?
Catra ices him.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Jack has looked a lot better these days since he switched trainers, but Nurse is awkward, man. He's an awkward guy to fight, so we'll see.
He's an awkward guy who loses and draws fights, Cam. He gets iced. I just think, he's one of these people, I'm always told he's awkward, but he awkwardly loses, And he awkwardly underperforms.
Leon Woodstock's fighting someone that you're familiar with, Leon. Sorry to bring it up, but Craig Poxton, does it ring a bell?
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll move on.
yeah. But that Leon, that Woodstock's good, isn't he?
He is. That'll be a good fight, I think. That Poxton showed a lot of heart against Ben, so we'll see.
Yeah. Is there anything else? There's nothing else big, is there?
Nothing big, no. I'll let you go.
Okay, nice one, guys.
All right,
Speak to you soon, man.
Take it
Cheers.
easy,
Bye. Bye.
Neil, so I'll start at the top. So on Thursday, we got Gabe Rosado versus Glenn Tapia, the war of the gatekeepers, I think that's going to be.
Yeah, and they both their first names start with G too. So gatekeeper versus gatekeeper.
Exactly.
G for gatekeeper.
So what's that?
But that's actually a really good fight. That's a really good fight.
I think it'll be a good fight. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that stylistically they kind of match up well with each other. Rosado tends to be a little bit more defensive-minded, Tapia a bit more offensive. So I think Tapia will kind of break Rosado out of his shell that he sometimes shows, and make it just a good scrap. I think the way that they kind of throw their punches and the angles at which they meet, we're going to get some really good exchanges out of these two. And they're both coming off of pretty good performances recently too. Rosado had the very controversial loss to Martin Murray, most people I think probably think that he should have won.
Yeah,
and then And then Glenn Tapia was fighting an undefeated prospect in Jason Quigley and gave him absolute hell late in that fight. Quigley was just barely hanging on for dear life towards the end of that fight, but he managed to, I guess, rack up enough early rounds. And plus, he was the Golden Boy fighter on the Golden Boy card, so you know how that goes. And he managed to get a wide decision that was way closer than what the judges had it versus Tapia. So I'm expecting a good fight out of Tapia versus Rosado. You know, could be a case where Rosado's skin lets him down because Tapia is a heavy puncher and he could cut him open. But overall, I think Rosado's slightly more skilled than Tapia, and I think that I'd edge it to Rosado because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think just defensively, Glenn Tapia is a bit basic coming forward, so I think Rosado should be able to kind of pick him off and change.
There's more levels to Rosado's game.
That's the thing. He does change gears as well. Like he'll not do much, and then he'll up his work rate, and then kind of win the round at the end of the 3 minutes. So
right,
yeah, I agree. It's on it's at the Monte Carlo in Vegas. ESPN, I think, I got that one. So Golden Boy on ESPN. I don't think it's getting shown in the UK anywhere, which is a shame. But I'm sure I'll pick it up on YouTube or Daily Motion. On Friday in the UK, debut of Joy Joyce, the long time, amateur and Olympian. He's fighting Ian Lewison, which is a very, very tough first fight for your debut. But he has had all that Olympic and amateur schooling, and they got him moving fast as well because Joyce is 32, which is pretty old for someone turning pro, and especially in the heavyweight division as well. I think they got him moving fast. So.
He definitely got his seasoning in the end. So I think they got he's ready to go. Throw him in the deep end, see what comes of it.
Yeah, that's Haymaker Promotion, David Hayes' establishment. It's at the Indigo at the O2, which I've never been, but from what I googled, it's a little smaller venue inside the O2 arena. So on BoxRec doesn't show anyone in the UK that's picked it up, so we'll see. It might be some type of internet stream or maybe YouTube or some shit. We'll see. What else we got? Saturday, Jezreel Corrales Neuta is fighting Alberto Machado. I know Jas was asking you questions in the Mixler chat. What's your thoughts on this fight? I've never seen Machado, so I can't really give my 2 cents.
It's a good fight. Machado's an undefeated contender, basically. 18-0, 15 knockouts. Very explosive, fast starter. He's a pretty tall guy, 5'10" and change. He's probably more like 5'11" or 6 feet, honestly. Like they list him at 5'10", but he's taller than that. At least that's what appears to me. But he's been kind of smoking quite a few kind of fringe level contenders. This is kind of a big step up for him against Corrales. The only thing that kind of concerns me about Machado is, even though I think that he's actually stylistically very difficult for Corrales in the way that Robert Castellanos was as well, where if you can kind of stand back and use kind of a reach and sharp shoot Corrales from way outside, you can give Corrales a lot of difficulty because he's looking to really change levels, change angles on you constantly, and he's kind of expecting you as more like of an orthodox fighter to be able to kind of fall into his traps. The guys that are able to kind of set the pace and set off the jab basically are going to give him a lot of difficulty. And I think Machado probably will for the first few rounds, but ultimately I think that he's going to tire out late in the fight, as he did in his last fight actually. And Corrales is kind of greater experience and just the wherewithal that he has in it, the greater dimension to his game that he's managed to develop over the years will lead Corrales to kind of getting a nice kind of championship rounds comeback and either stopping Machado late, because he does carry a good bit of power, or getting a pretty good competitive decision but clear win.
HBO picked this up, but it's weird. Like, I don't really think this is the card that they should have picked up, that should have invested money in. I think there's other fights and they could have maybe made, but I guess they had a budget towards the end of the year. It's running out, not many fights being made, so they picked it up. We mentioned earlier when Lim was on the line that Boo Boo Andrade is on the undercard, but I don't know, it's a bit of a weak HBO card for me.
Maybe on the face of it, because Avantes Fox and Alberto Machado aren't really like names. They're not known guys. Corrales and Andrade, even though they're somewhat names, they're not even necessarily guys that have been heavily promoted and heavily hyped necessarily, to their detriment, unfortunately. But they're still top guys in their divisions. regardless. So yeah, it's kind of a funny one, but I like in terms of the class of fighter that Corrales and Andrade are. I think they definitely deserve the coverage, and I mean they're both fighting undefeated prospects / contenders. So that's a solid card, I'd say. But I guess it really depends on exactly how much Fox and Machado show in the fight. You know what I mean? They could. It's kind of a big question mark. They could get smoked in a couple of rounds and be on some Lubin shit, or they could give a couple of like kind of breakout performances where you think like even if they lose or if they win, like oh wow, this is a new name to be talking about in their respective divisions.
Bro, you didn't have to mention Lubin again, man. Come on. I'm hurt enough, Naoto.
I got to get as many in as I can before the show's over, because we might not be talking about Lubin as much in the near future, unfortunately.
Shit. All right. Well, else we touched upon it when Leon was on Zach versus Ryan Burnett. I think it's going to be one of those fights, Naoto, where you'll get one scorecard that's got it wide for Burnett. You got one that's got it wide for Zach, and then one in the draw in the middle because Zach's going to keep coming forward, throwing loads of shots. Burnett, who high on, I do really rate him. I just don't know how he's going to deal with the pressure of Zach, man. It's going to be an interesting fight.
Yeah, very interesting. Burnett, for what it's worth, he's pretty well handled and schooled Haskins, but Haskins to me was really the weakest champion at 118. Zakianov, great kind of a comeback performance after getting dropped early against Rasheed Warren. And he's rugged. He's a tough guy, a strong guy. He's going to press the issue. He's got hammers for fists. He's just every shot that it looks like he's throwing at an opponent, he's throwing with just bad intentions written all over it. And that hook is nasty. It's really very appropriate, I think, that he happens to be Ricky Hatton's first champion, because he's a fighter like taking a page out of Hatton's handbook in terms of how to approach the sport of boxing. I think I slightly favor Burnett. I think because of the fact that he's on home soil, will help him a bit, and also just the fact that I think he has a little bit more dimension, technically speaking, to his game. Ultimately, I think will kind of lead him to kind of the close, maybe possibly controversial decision win over Zakianov. But I mean, Zakianov, as explosive as he is, we could very well see him either light up Burnett or even grind him down and stop him late, as it looked like he was almost on his way to doing against Warren, but Warren was able to just hang on and be able to lose a close decision to Zakianov. But it's a great fight, man. It's freaking great unification between these two. HBO has picked it up. It shows, that they're definitely well invested a bit more in the lower weight classes than other people may have initially thought, even though, they were praying for the downfall for whatever fucking reason. I guess because they're too fucking fat to get off of the couch and actually, research something about the entire sport of boxing as opposed to what's just hand-fed to them, on a silver platter. But, hey, there it goes.
I see your point, but again, I think that... I may be wrong, but I think it's to do with this tie-up that Matchroom have got with HBO, so I think that's probably the reason they picked it up.
Yeah, there's probably a bit of that as well. But it's a great fight, man. Regardless, however we get it, I'm glad that we get it, because it's definitely a fight that I think deserves a bit of wider coverage, broader coverage, because two guys where the winner I think really emerges as possibly really the best guy at 118, considering the fact that, Neri tested positive for some shit, and Yamanaka's now kind of regained his crown, but who knows how Yamanaka's going to be after the beatdown that he got from Neri. You can roll back the decision or the knockout victory on the record, but you can't roll back the damage that he took in the ring. So you never know. We may be looking at the best bantamweight in the world come Saturday as the fight concludes.
I am looking forward to that fight. I think it'd be a good tear up, as Naz would say. But it's a shame again clashing. You got this card in Leeds, but I'm not too bothered because the card in Leeds isn't really that great. I know some of these BT/Box Nation cards have been good. This isn't really on that level. I think Dennis Salin, opponent for Josh Warrington, is. I don't know. Like, if you look at Warrington, yeah, he had that first kind of come over to Box Nation/BT fight against Kiko Martinez. Didn't look that good. They're always talking about Frampton. They're always talking about Selby, but they don't fight him. He had the opportunity to go to the States and fight Jojo Diaz, apparently, but he refused. Take that opportunity, go there. You might lose to him, but you might put on a great display, and they might give you different fights. You know, sitting at home fighting lesser opposition is not going to do anything for you, especially if you put a performance on like he did against Kiko. Sailing, I've seen him twice. He fought Isaac Lowe in his last fight. Head clash stopped that. It was a technical decision. Before that, he fought Ryan Walsh, which I thought he actually won that fight. It was a close fight, but I thought Sailing nicked it. But he's okay. He kind of he does the basics well, but he's nothing special. In theory, Josh should beat him quite comfortably, but we'll see. Not everything happens in theory.
I expect him to. You know, and I kind of echo your sentiments too. I mean, look what happened with, like, say, Luke Campbell, for instance. You know, he gave Linares a pretty good fight and showed to some of his doubters that you know, he can compete on a certain level.
Exactly.
You know, Warrington, I think, really should have taken that shot, and it's unfortunate that he didn't, or that he hasn't yet.
Yeah, totally. What else, Josh? Tyrone Nurse Cattrall, I think, as I said to Leon, it's a tough fight because Nurse is weird, man. He'll do good when he takes centre of the ring, but then too many times he'll go against the ropes and try and just use shoulder roll and try and be too slick for his own good. He won't really throw that much. He'll throw this little slappy hook on the inside that doesn't really do much. And Jack, I like Jack since he's moved and started to train with Haroon. I think one thing I think he lacked is he just got into a kind of sparring mentality where Haroon, I've seen it in his fight against Gethin and the fight before that, he was telling him, look, you need to turn it up now, you need to get this guy out of here, or try to get him out of here, and that was his initial problem. He was just too comfortable kind of plodding along, so we'll see. I'm picking Cattrall, but I think it'll be a tough fight depending on how Nurse comes out, and I know there was some back and forth in the press conferences as well. I think Nurse's dad, I think, who's his trainer, he was kind of going back and forth with Haroon, who's Cattrall's trainer, so I think there's going to be a bit of needle because both trainers are going to want their guy to come out victorious, so we'll see, man. It might be a good fight. Leon Woodstock, as I said, is fighting Craig Poxton, who stopped our boy Jones Jr. Was that last year? Was it this year? I can't remember. Boy Jones, it was February this year. Zalfa Barrett the Brown Flash, he's fighting Chris Cornwell. We'll see if they're going to bring him on. He's 18-0 now, but he's fighting a guy that's 9-2. I know he's young, man, but you need to start bringing him on a bit. Otherwise, you're just going to start treading water. Moving on, what else we got? World Boxing Series, Leota's back. Gassiev versus I can't pronounce that name, man. Was it Vladicek?
Larachek.
Radicek. I don't know, man. But you know what? I've not seen much of him. I know he's kind of been inactive. And what's your thoughts on him?
Long in the tooth. Larachek, I think probably could have beat Gassiev back in the day. You know, he was a really good fighter. He was pretty much like one of the two best cruiserweights in that division a few years back. Back it was kind of between him and Steve Cunningham, had a little rivalry there. But I think Gassiev is going to young man him going there and just physically kind of press the issue against the older man, and but he should be able to get him out of there. I expect him to, and if he does it in more impressive fashion and just kind of dominates and knocks him out like that, then hey, good for Gassiev, and we'll have a very mouth-watering fight ahead of us between Gassiev and Guinea Dotricos.
Yeah, that should be good if that does happen. I'd actually think Gassiev did lose that Lebedev fight, but I'm a Lebedev fanboy, so I don't know. Take what you will from that, but yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm picking Gassiev, but I'm not seeing much of dude, so.
If Larachek was younger, I'd actually pick him to outbox Gassiev. But I think now the kind of he's one of those guys that kind of does the fundamentals really well, or he did. But I think as time has kind of passed, he's lost just a touch of that snap on him, and that will be ultimately what allows Gassiev to land that big power on him and get rid of him.
Newton, we know the BSS had this weird placement for the Thrikos and the Kudryashev fight, but I think they've done it again. Really, like the Prudential Center in New York, New Jersey for this fight. I really think this is a European fight, really.
Yeah, Newark. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure. But I think there might be a pretty good Polish population right around there, though, too. So that might have been the thinking behind it. So, but I mean, either way, however we get the fights, we get them wherever they happen to be. Because I see Sulecki is on there too. He's Polish, and I think there might be one other Polish fighter on that undercard too. So I think that was probably the thinking behind putting it there.
That makes sense. Lim, you got loads of background noise, bro. I'm hanging up on you, bro. Sorry. Cecilia Breckhouse is defending all her welterweight titles in a rematch against Michaela Lauren in Norway. And what else we got? We got that card in Sunday in Japan, Naota. Yeah, great card. And interestingly enough, the main event is actually going to be on ESPN Deportes and ESPN2 because of the fact that Ryo Murata is promoted, or co-promoted rather, by Top Rank alongside Taken. So him, the rematch versus Hassan Indam Injikam in what was the robbery probably of the fucking decade, because Murata taxed that ass and somehow got robbed in Japan. But it looks like they're going to run it back, and the wrong shall be righted. And Murata, I mean, based off of that performance, I was expecting him to be like a great new rival for the likes of Canelo, for Golovkin, etc. And I don't change that at all. I mean, especially considering how both Canelo and Golovkin, I thought, came out looking a bit flawed of their fight against each other. I think Murata has a great opportunity here ahead of him in order to be able to become possibly like the quickest and the biggest rising star in Japan. Even eclipsing Nagi Inoue, simply because of the fact that even over there size matters. In a way. So he may be able to kind of to capitalize. Maybe where Inoue is letting a little bit of the door open with not fighting in the U.S. for his next fight and fighting in Tokyo instead. But also on that card, Daigo Higa versus Thomas Masson. It's a WBC. I think it's pretty sure it's not a mandatory, but a voluntary.
A voluntary. There you go. For Higa versus Masson. Masson's a very tall guy though for the division. He's 5'7" and change. Fought Ashley Sexton. I don't know if you ever saw this fight, Cam. He fought Ashley Sexton back at 122 back in 2012. Lost to Sexton, of course, but down at 112, he's a pretty big dude, but he's definitely gonna have to be against Higa, because Higa is a fucking knockout artist, like a knockout artist of knockout artists. 13-0, 13 knockouts. Managed to stop Chiritos Hernandez in his last fight to win the WBC title in the 6th round, in a fight where Chiritos actually missed weight. Chiritos was actually giving him a good fight. Was just a slight bit ahead of him. He's got that kind of wild kind of Quadras-esque improvisational style, but Higa was able to just kind of slowly chop him down, cut off the ring, and dropped him, what was that, I think about 5 times, or 5 or 6 times in between the last few rounds that it took place. And Higa's a fucking beast, man. He's like a mini Chocolatito, like a mini Golovkin, but he's still young, unlike the two of them. And I think we're going to see some amazing fucking fights and highlights from this guy in the future. I mean, if you want to talk about somebody that might be able to capitalize off of the road that's been paved for the lighter weights that Chocolatito paved, I think Higa's definitely something to be fucking reckoned with, seriously. And then in addition to that is the WBC light flyweight champion Ken Shiro. Recently just kind of got a somewhat controversial decision over Ganigan Lopez. He's going to be fighting Lopez's own home country rival from Mexico, Pedro Guevara. Guevara, interestingly enough, is rated as the #1 fighter at 108 by the Ring magazine, even though he doesn't even have a belt. But I think that's largely owed to the fact that the losses that he's had were very controversial, like the loss to Lopez, the aforementioned Lopez, and also the fact that he's the loss to Yuki Mura, who Lopez then defeated to win the belt. But he actually defeated Lopez by a more comfortable margin than Shiro did, for instance. And I think that's a big part of the reason why they rate him so highly. I think really he's probably the most complete fighter at that weight class, and so I do expect him to be able to outbox Shiro. I think Shiro is a little bit too green for somebody of Guevara's caliber and technical ability. But great card between the three fighters that are taking place, and honestly, it's really unfortunate that ESPN's not going to show all three fights, because really the Murata versus Endam fight is going to be a cakewalk for Murata. It's going to be like watching Lara versus Gachet, like watching paint dry. Murata's going to be able to handily outbox him unless he goes out there looking to knock Hassan out, which he may very well do. I mean, he may be looking to take it out of the judge's hands on this occasion. So maybe it'll be a little bit more explosive than I'm expecting. But the Higa versus Masson fight is must see. Higa's just a must watch fighter, period, regardless of what kind of fan of boxing you are. And Shiro versus Guevara, I think, is really a tactician's delight. It's two very technically sound boxers facing off against each other.
Yeah, I remember you sent me the link for the Choritos and the Higa fight, and his ability to cut the ring off was very good, and the uppercuts and bodywork on the inside was excellent, man. So yeah, he's a guy.
He's the type of fighter. He's the type of fighter that people that like action fighters, he's your guy. More than probably just about anybody in the sport, because he's very technically sound in the way that he's able to cut off the ring, and he's got fucking blitzkrieg style fucking punches. You know, he's coming with full force, knockout intentions, and he's basically got the knockout every time he's gone out there. So I don't expect that to slow up anytime soon either.
Yeah, and how many fights is he in now? He's still relatively pretty low.
Yeah, this is his 14th fight.
It's crazy, man. That's what I like about the Japanese dudes, man. They're moving quite fast.
Yeah, it's largely it seems like the guy that I mentioned way earlier in the show, Kazuto Ioka, he is kind of the one that kind of started that trend. He fought for a title. I think it was in his 7th fight, probably about 8 or 9 years ago. His uncle had pretty much done the same thing back in the day, Hiroki Ioka, who was, I think, probably the one to really initially start the trend of fighters from Japan just moving very fast and getting it done, getting it over with, and seeing sink or swim who's really the best of the best. And I think that's largely what's led to kind of this rebirth and the golden era of Japanese boxing, considering the fact that I think it's 10 world champions right now, which is more than just about any other country except for maybe the US and the UK.
Anything else that we missed, Naota? Are we done for the night?
No, I think we managed to juice it for all that it's worth, man.
Good job. Naota, I want to thank you. Also Daniel, Lim and Leon, who were on earlier. All the people in the chat and all the people that download the show week in, week out. We'll be back next week. Peace.
You just listened to the Boxing Coalition.
Dude, man, I love boxing. I fucking love boxing.
A big shout out to the Boxing Coalition.
You're a newbie.
No, I ain't new, man.
If my fucking next door neighbour became the #1 flyweight in the world, you know what I'd do? I'd fucking walk past the cunt.
Derek, how you doing, bro?
I was physically burn you, blood.
I disagree.
First time I hear the show, man, it was fucking badass.
Vamos a Argentina, la concha de su madre.
I see the bomb in them.
I get home and she's like, what the fuck? Me and the kid are here. Why don't you get home and talk to us? I'm like, man, you guys don't know shit about boxing.
Kel, how does it feel to be the new IBF champion?
Feels great. Did we really dive into the black hole right off the jump?
I think he's hiding glass. Just to play devil's advocate. You want 1 portion of crow or 2 portions of crow?
Give me 2 portions with a supersized fries and a large drink, please.
I can't stand him, what? I'm Scottish. Cringe side?
But you won't crush Anthony fucking fat ass Joshua, would you?
He's not fat.
How about you tell us what you weigh for your final thoughts?
My weight?
Thank you for listening to the Boxing Coalition. We are live every Monday, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. UK time, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern.